These are real haunted castles where spirits still roam at night. You don't expect a castle to feel afraid. They're supposed to be strong, stone walls, iron gates, towers built to survive wars. But some castles didn't just survive history, they absorbed it. The fear, the betrayal, the executions, the grief. And according to countless witnesses, some of that energy never left. Edenberg Castle in Scotland. A lone drumbeat echoes through the stone corridors. No drummer, no ceremony, no living soul, just the sound of someone who's been deceased for centuries. Edenberg Castle sits on top of an extinct volcano, towering over the city like something straight out of a medieval nightmare. It has been a royal fortress, a military stronghold, and a prison of war. Which means one thing: a lot of people suffered and passed away here. And visitors swear not all of them actually left. One of the most famous spirits is the Phantom Piper. According to legend, a young boy was sent into the castle's underground tunnels centuries ago, playing bagpipes so soldiers basically above ground could track where the tunnels led. Halfway through, the music suddenly stopped. They searched, they called his name, but nothing. He was never found, and to this day, guards and tourists report hearing distant, mournful bagpipes coming from beneath the castle where no one is playing. Then there's the headless drummer. Before historic attacks on Edenberg Castle, witnesses claimed to see a headless boy beating a drum along the battlements, a ghostly warning of danger. Now today, staff and visitors still report hearing unexplained drumming sounds echoing through the castle late at night, especially before storms or strange incidents. And it gets worse. In the castle's old prison vaults, where enemy soldiers were once held in brutal conditions, people report being touched, shoved, and even having their clothes pulled by invisible hands. Paranormal investigators have recorded sudden temperature drops, shadow figures, and the feeling of being watched from inside empty cells. One visitor claimed she felt someone breathe directly into her ear. Creepy. She turned around, but no one was there. Casa Loma in Toronto, Canada. Right in the middle of modern Toronto traffic sits a castle that should not exist. Turrets, secret passageways, underground tunnels, and according to staff, spirits that never checked out. Casa Loma was built in the early 1900s by Sir Henry Pellet, a wealthy financier who dreamed of living like royalty, don't we all? But his fortune collapsed, and he was forced to abandon the castle he loved. Some believe he never emotionally left. Staff and visitors regularly report seeing a man in period time clothing wandering the halls, believed to be Pellet himself. He doesn't speak, he doesn't acknowledge anyone, he just kind of walks by like he's still inspecting his home. But the most famous ghost isn't actually him, it's his wife, the White Lady. People have seen a woman in white standing on the castle stairs, in the towers, and near the secret passageways. She appeared solid at first until she then fades away. Employees working alone have heard whispering when the building is empty, doors opening by themselves, lights turn on in locked rooms. Security guards have reported footsteps following them through hallways that were completely clear on camera. And the underground tunnel system, yeah, that's where things get seriously unsettling. And I know, I've been there. Casa Loma has a long tunnel connecting the main castle to the stables. Visitors describe sudden cold spots, the feeling of being watched, and shadows moving along the walls even when the lighting hasn't changed. One tour guide said she heard a woman softly humming behind her in the tunnel. She turned around, no one was there. Again, I have been to Casa Loma several times. Personally, I've never seen any spirits, but I did experience cold spots and weird energy in one of the rooms, and the tunnels are definitely creepy. And for Halloween, they actually turn it into a big haunted house walk, and let's just say, I will never do that again. Chillingham Castle in England. Now, this castle doesn't just have ghosts, it has a reputation for being one of the most haunted places in the entire United Kingdom. And once you hear its history, you're gonna understand why. Chillingham Castle was used as a military outpost near the Scottish border, but during times of war, it became something else, a place of imprisonment and torment. Hundreds, possibly thousands, are believed to have passed away here. Visitors report seeing the blue boy in the pink room, a glowing childlike figure who appears at the foot of the bed. Now, guests have woken up to see him standing there, kind of just staring. Some say they felt an icy hand grab theirs before he vanished. Then there's the torturer's ghost. In the dungeon area, people have reported seeing a tall, dark figure with a hood, believed to be the spirit of a former executioner. Cold spots, nausea, and intense fear are commonly reported in this part of the castle. Paranormal teams have captured unexplained voices and sudden equipment failures here, and perhaps the most disturbing is the Lady Mary Berkeley. After being abandoned Abandoned by her husband centuries ago, she is said to wander the castle's corridors in heartbreak, still searching for him. Poor gal. Witnesses say she appears semi-transparent, dressed in gray, drifting kind of silently through the walls, and guests staying overnight have reported their bed curtains being pulled, footsteps pacing their rooms, and whispers in the dark. One man said he felt someone sit on the edge of his bed. The mattress dipped. He couldn't move. Scary. Bran Castle in Romania. You can't talk about haunted castles without mentioning the place linked to Dracula. Bran Castle rises dramatically on a rocky hill in Romania, and while the real Vlad, the Impaler, may not have lived there long, the legends surrounding the castle are soaked in demise and fear. Visitors report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread inside certain rooms, especially near the narrow staircases and hidden chambers. But the most commonly reported spirit isn't actually Dracula. It's Queen Marie of Romania. Now, she loved Bran Castle deeply and requested that her heart be kept there after her passing. Many believe her spirit still returns. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, staff and visitors claim to have seen a woman in white walking through the gardens at dusk, vanishing when approached, and inside the castle, people have reported doors slamming, sudden cold drafts in sealed rooms, and shadow figures crossing hallways where no one is actually standing. Now, during restoration work, workers reported tools being moved, whispers in empty rooms, and the sensation of someone standing literally right behind them, only to turn around and again see nothing. One guard said he heard slow, deliberate footsteps climbing the stone stairs late at night. He followed the sound, but the staircase, of course, was empty. Leap Castle in Ireland. If castles could scream, this one would never stop. Leap Castle in Ireland has a violent history filled with betrayal, demise, and one of the most disturbing discoveries ever made in a historic building. Now, legend says two brothers fought for control over the castle. One was a priest, and the other burst into the chapel during mass and unalived him at the altar. Now, visitors report shadow figures standing where the priest passed away. Some feel sudden crushing pressure on their chest when entering the room, and others say they hear low chanting even when the castle is empty. But the most terrifying entity reported here is known simply as the Elemental. Witnesses describe it as a dark, inhuman presence with a foul smell of rotting flesh and sulfur. It's said to appear as a shadowy figure with a twisted face and hollow eyes. People who've encountered it report overwhelming dread and nausea and the urge to just flee immediately. Now, during renovations in the early 1900s, workers discovered a hidden oubliette, which is a dungeon pit filled with human skeletons. I know. Cartloads of bones were removed. Many believe the spirits of those prisoners just never left, and guests have reported doors slamming, growling sounds in empty rooms, and the sensation of just being watched from every dark corner. One visitor said she saw a black shape crouched in the hallway. It stood up, appeared, and then disappeared into the wall. Some castles were built to keep enemies out, but these, they might still be holding something in. And if walls could talk, I don't think we'd want to actually hear what they have to say. Starting with the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana. It's called one of America's most haunted homes, and honestly for good reason. At first glance, the Myrtles Plantation looks like a dreamy slice of Southern history, complete with moss-draped oaks and a wraparound porch. But don't let that charm fool you. This place is riddled with spirits. The most infamous ghost, well, Chloe. Legend says she was an enslaved woman punished for eavesdropping by having her ear cut off. In retaliation, she allegedly baked a poisonous cake that unalived two young girls. Now, she was sent to the gallows, and ever since, people claim she appears in a green turban near the old slave quarters. A photograph taken in 1992 reportedly shows her standing actually between two buildings, a photo many believe is authentic. But she's not the only one. Guests have reported hearing children giggling late at night only to find empty hallways and nobody even there. Mirrors in the house show handprints on them that actually won't wipe off, and a grand piano in the parlor plays by itself, and quite beautifully apparently, but also, as you can imagine, quite eerily as well. And some guests have fled basically in the middle of the night after seeing full body apparitions standing at the foot of their beds. They literally said, yeah, no thanks, I think I'm gonna head out now. Now, the Myrtles have over 200 years of tragic history, from mysterious passings to Civil War violence. Paranormal investigators have called it a hotbed of activity, with nearly every room said to have some sort of haunting. The LaLaurie Mansion, located in New Orleans in Louisiana. Even in a city known for its haunted past, the LaLaurie Mansion stands out as a nightmare frozen in time. Located in the heart of the French Quarter, which, if you're not familiar or never been to Mardi Gras, this is a paranormal super space riddled with paranormal activity. Anyway, this stately Creole mansion hides one of the most disturbing stories of cruelty and supernatural revenge in US history. Get ready and sit tight for this one, friends. Now, in the early 1800s, Madame Delphine LaLaurie was a socialite known for her wealth and influence, but also for the really horrific mistreatment of the enslaved people in her home. In 1834, a kitchen fire led authorities to the attic where they discovered a secret torment chamber. Victims were found chained, mutilated, and barely alive. Some even reportedly had experimental surgeries performed on them. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't want to, but no wonder they're haunting the place, right? Now, the mansion was mobbed and burned, and LaLaurie fled to Paris. She was basically like, see ya, but the spirits of her victims never left, and I don't blame them. I mean, these goo-goos got some unfinished business with her, and they're standing on business, as they should, period. For nearly 2 centuries, residents and visitors alike have reported hearing just a bunch of crazy stuff, like wailing screams, phantom footsteps, and seeing shadowy figures kind of lurking in the upper windows. Now, some even say the ghost of Madame LaLaurie herself still haunts the house, trapped in her legacy of torment. Actor Nicolas Cage actually bought the mansion in 2007 and sold it just 2 years later. You don't say. Now, he never explained why, but insiders say he couldn't handle what was happening inside. I mean, I feel like that is just so on brand for Cage. I feel like I'm not even shocked that he bought it for some reason. I just feel like this is something he would do, honestly. I do love me some Nicolas Cage. I mean, fun fact, I have a pillow with his face on it. We call it Pillowless Cage. Anyway, the place is haunted, so don't visit, or do, and report back. The old state capitol located in Baton Rouge in Louisiana, so this place, it looks like a castle, and it's haunted like one too. I mean, the old state capitol in Baton Rouge is a stunning Gothic revival building perched on the Mississippi River, but behind the stained glass windows and spiral staircases lies a very long and eerie history. It was originally built in 1852. The building served as Louisiana's state house and witnessed everything from Civil War occupation to massive political upheaval. Now, it even burned down once and had to be rebuilt. But the real reason people say it's haunted, well, Pierre Couvillon, a fiery politician who passed away during a heated debate inside the chambers, apparently still roams the halls and rooms there and refuses to leave. Visitors claim he's still there. Now, many, if not almost all visitors, claim to have heard banging desks, slamming doors, and someone, likely Pierre, mumbling angrily in French. So I mean, most non-French speaking visitors don't actually know what he's saying. I mean, he could honestly just be recommending the best place close by to get a hot dog, but we'll never know. Or he's saying get out. I mean, that's also a really good high possibility. Now, staff and tourists have reported hearing phantom footsteps when the building is empty, unexplained cold drafts, and even lights flickering without any power issues. Now, the basement is particularly unsettling. Paranormal investigators have recorded EVPs, strange electromagnetic readings, and a persistent sense of just being watched. So basically, all things spooky that you would expect when visiting, well, you know, a spooky haunted place. If there's a checklist, this place ticks off every single box. It's now a museum, but employees refuse to work there alone after dark. I don't blame them. I mean, some claim the building itself seems to breathe, like it's alive and angry. I mean, that's kind of terrifying in itself. I don't want to go anywhere where a building is breathing. Like, what? Would you visit this place? Let me know. The DeRidder Jail, located in DeRidder, Louisiana. Locals call it the hanging jail, and the name itself, you know, isn't just for show. In 1928, 2 men convicted of executing a taxi driver were sent to the scaffold right inside the jail to be taken out, which was, at the time, a very rare and brutal public execution that set the tone for the building's eerie legacy. Now, the jail was built in 1914 and has been abandoned for decades, but investigators and visitors swear it's anything but empty. Cold spots, disembodied voices, ghostly apparitions have been reported throughout the decaying cells. Now, some visitors say they hear a woman weeping softly near cell number 3, despite the jail never having housed any female inmates. So my guess would be like a widow, maybe a girlfriend, a mother. I don't know. I'm just trying to run through like what would make the most sense as to why a woman would go and hang out there, but whatever. The actual hanging chamber remains intact, complete with the original trapdoor and lever. Now, paranormal groups have documented strange electromagnetic spikes in the gallows room and caught shadowy figures darting across camera lenses. So imagine, if you will, like a typical jump scare in your favorite scary movie. If that's not enough, you know, during one overnight tour, a man claimed he actually felt someone grab his ankle and there was no one near him. Another visitor collapsed in the gallows room, later saying she felt like someone was trying to pull her down with them. Oh my god, the horror, just imagine. Now remind me to never go visit there. I'm good on that one, thanks. St. Louis Cemetery number 1 in New Orleans Orleans, Louisiana. Now, New Orleans has plenty of haunted cemeteries, as you'd imagine, but St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, founded in 1789, is the crown jewel of the departed. It's the final resting place of Marie Laveau, the infamous voodoo queen, whose power still terrifies skeptics and believers alike. Speaking on this queen, in case you don't know anything at all about her, well, she was a real historical figure, a big deal, a Creole woman who practiced a mix of, Catholicism and voodoo in the 1800s and was known for her healing, spiritual readings, as well as rumored curses. Now, since her passing in 1881, people claim to have seen her wandering between the tombs, wearing a red and white headscarf and clutching a snake. Very specific and also very creepy, right? Visitors leave, offerings as a way to appease her and basically hope she doesn't attack them or curse them. I mean, many people leave like lipstick, rum, coins, etc. And they also do this though to ask for favors. But disrespect her grave and it's said she'll follow you. Like, not just around the premises, no, she'll follow you home. One tourist reportedly kicked over an offering and later woke up at home with scratch marks on his back and bruises in the shape of fingers. Even seasoned tour guides refused to walk certain rows alone. Other graves in the cemetery also hold secrets. Phantom figures are seen peeking out from behind tombs, and multiple guests have caught orbs and strange mists on camera, especially around dusk. Now, this place sounds like something straight out of my nightmares. I feel like I've been there before, again, in a nightmare. I don't think I care to visit in person, so if you do, let me know how that goes, and remember not to disrespect her. Maybe bring some lipstick, maybe MAC or like a YSL one. Dollar brand won't get you anywhere with her. These are not just ghost stories, they're pieces of Louisiana's haunted soul, etched into walls, buried in crypts, and whispered across centuries. So if you ever find yourself near one of these places, maybe think twice before stepping inside, because in Louisiana, the departed don't rest, they remember. The Gold Camp Road Tunnels in Colorado. The Gold Camp Road tunnels were constructed during the 1800s to help support the ongoing Pikes Peak Gold Rush. Connecting Cripple Creek and Colorado Springs, a railway was laid down on the route that is now Gold Camp Road. The tunnels were built to facilitate transportation of miners and supplies during the gold rush, but some say the tunnels actually hold a deeper rooted history, that it was built for evil and criminal activity. Now, the Gold Camp Road tunnels are widely known for their alleged ghostly activity and spooky folklore. Now, visitors and locals alike have reported hearing unexplained laughter, feeling tugging on clothes, finding handprints on vehicles, and even seeing apparitions. While some attribute, these occurrences to paranormal activity, others suggest they may be due to natural phenomena or vivid imaginations. Now, according to the most prevalent folktale, one of the remaining tunnels actually collapsed while a school bus full of homeless children was driving through it, unaliving the driver and the entire group of kids, leaving their very unquiet little spirits to linger around the tunnels. Now, hikers and mountain bikers have reported hearing these children's laughter, giggles, and even screams inside the tunnels, especially near the now closed tunnel number 3. Dusty cars parked near tunnel number 3 have been found with child-sized handprints. Some have reported feeling their cars being pushed uphill in tunnel number 2, even though the cars were in neutral. Now, whether you believe in ghosts or not, the tunnels certainly offer a very unique and somewhat unsettling experience. Victoria Park in Brisbane. Now, Victoria Park in Brisbane has a history intertwined with both its role as a public space and some dark events that have led to paranormal tales and stories. While it's not officially technically known as a haunted location with concrete evidence, the park's history, including its use as a rifle range and an encampment for World War II American troops, has contributed to the narrative surrounding it. Now, some individuals associate these historical events with unexplained occurrences, leading to the park being perceived as a place with a dark twist and ghostly whispers. Now, Victoria Park was officially opened in 1887 to mark the Jubilee of Queen Victoria. It was named in her honor and was developed in 2 years using labor from the shipyards during a time of economic hardship. Some narratives associate the park with a series of mysterious assassinations and unexplained demises near a crossroad on an abandoned train line, leading to the involvement of paranormal investigators in some cases. Now, in the late 1800s, Victoria Park became the location of illegal gambling and other criminal activities involving young men and boys. Now, in May of 1888, a local of the Spring Hill area, identifying himself only as patres familias, or father of the family, wrote several complaints to the Brisbane Courier of groups of young men gathering in Victoria Park at night using foul language and gambling, a problem that had apparently been happening for several months. Now in 1903 we apparently have what is known as the first sighting of the Grey Ghost, or the Nun of the Victoria Park Tunnel. In 1903, special police squads were assigned to control vast crowds gathered to glimpse, a sighting of the ghost. It was described as looking like a tall nun floating through the tunnel towards the lake on the inner city bypass side. Now in 1932 there was apparently a second sighting of the ghost. This time it was less like a nun, but still had the appearance of a human reaching out and heading for the lake. This all leads to the most famous haunting in Brisbane's history that saw other, 5,000 people gathering to search for this ghost in November of 1965. Many have told and retold this story, and it has a mythology all of its own. The Blue Ghost Tunnel in Ontario, Canada. Now the Blue Ghost Tunnel, also known as the Meriden Tunnel in St. Catharines, Ontario, gained its reputation for being haunted due to a tragic train crash in 1903. The tunnel's history, including a fatal rail disaster and the subsequent construction and use of the tunnel, contributes to the local legends and belief in its paranormal activity. So in 1903, two engines collided within the tunnel, resulting in the passing of Mr. Charles Horning, the fireman of Engine 4. This event is a key factor in the tunnel's association with the Blue Ghost. Now, local legends recount the accident and the aftermath, contributing to the tunnel's reputation, as this very haunted location. The tunnel was built in 1876 and later converted to occasional use, but it was closed in 1915. People have reported experiencing paranormal phenomena in and around the tunnel. These experiences include hearing sounds like the clicking of a clock, seeing apparitions, and feeling a general sense of unease. Some stories suggest that the tunnel was used as part of the Underground Railroad, which is interesting. Now, a local legend recounts the ghost of a young woman whose clothing caught fire and who passed away in the tunnel. These stories, along with the train crash, contribute to the tunnel's reputation as a place for paranormal activity. The Moonville Tunnel in Ohio. So the Moonville Tunnel, located in Vinton County, Ohio, is known for its haunted reputation and a history linked to accidents and a nearby ghost town. Specifically, it's believed that the tunnel is haunted due to the accidental demises of railroad workers struck by trains within the tunnel. The town of Moonville in Vinton County quickly grew to over 100 residents by the 1870s. Most of the residents were coal miners or railroad workers, but by the 1900s, the town was mostly abandoned as coal mines kind of just dried up. Now, the last residents left all the way back in 1947. All that remains of the town are the eerie Moonville Tunnel and the cemetery. Some visitors have reported seeing, ghosts or feeling a sense of unease, further just feeling, the tunnel's ghostly kind of reputation. Some visitors have also reported seeing ghosts of railroad workers, hearing sounds of train engines, or just feeling a sense of unease, within the tunnel. So believers say that ghosts of railroad workers struck down by a train in the Moonville Tunnel still actually wave their lanterns in the abandoned tunnel. Today, visitors can hike portions of this abandoned railroad line, which are being actually converted into walking and biking trails. The tunnel was once part of a larger rail system that connected to the nearby coal mining town of Moonville. So like I mentioned, portions of this railroad are being converted into trails, which will allow visitors, maybe such as yourself, to explore the area. So go check it out if you're ever there and report back to us. I'd love to hear the real experiences. The Big Bull Tunnel in Wise Country, Virginia. Now, the Big Bull Tunnel is a railroad tunnel with a history marked by both tragedy and paranormal claims. It's been reported to be haunted by some, with stories of a voice begging for relief and exclamations of "they're drinking my blood." Now, the tunnel's construction in the late 1800s and early 1900s was marked by accidents and passings, fueling the rumors of a restless spirit or spirits. Now, the tunnel's construction was not without its dangers, of course. Accidents and, passings during the building's process, along with potential tragedies experienced within the tunnel itself, could have contributed to the belief that the tunnel is haunted. Newspaper reports and local accounts describe a range of paranormal phenomena, including voices, groaning sounds, and even the perception of a blue light or headless form. Now, these reports, particularly those from railroad workers, have fueled the tunnel's reputation as a haunted location. Like any tunnel built in the 19th century, the Big Bull Tunnel's construction caused many passings, even just from rocks falling, collisions and other accidents like that. Now, there was even at least one assassination in the tunnel, allegedly. Now, the tales of hauntings go all the way back to the tunnel's earliest days. During one official inspection in 1905, 2 inspectors reported hearing the ghostly voice coming from behind the bricks. Pripyat Amusement Park in Ukraine. Now, if there is one abandoned amusement park that feels like the world pressed pause right before disaster, it's the one in Pripyat. Now, the infamous Ferris wheel was supposed to be open for the very first time the day after the Chernobyl nuclear explosion, but the city was evacuated in a panic and the rides never had a chance to spin. Today, the entire park stands exactly as it was left. Ferris wheel cabins frozen in midair, bumper cars still parked as if waiting for the next round, rust eating through everything. But the weird part isn't what you see, it's what you feel. Visitors describe an atmosphere that is unnervingly heavy. Sound doesn't travel normally here, almost like the air itself is thick. Some people report the distant sound of creaking metal when the Ferris wheel moves slightly in the wind. Others claim they've heard faint echoes that resemble children laughing, even though the city has been empty for almost 4 decades. Radiation monitors sometimes spike unexpectedly near the rides. Some explorers have sworn they saw a figure standing behind one of the bumper cars, or movement in the windows of nearby abandoned buildings, only for it to vanish the moment they tried to look directly at it. The park is more than abandoned. It feels like a memorial frozen in time, a place suspended in its final moment. Spree Park in Berlin, Germany. The Ferris wheel at Berlin's abandoned Spree Park doesn't just stand abandoned, it moves. When the wind is strong enough, the entire wheel slowly turns on its own, creaking loudly through the forest that's grown up around it. And that sound, that's exactly what draws ghost hunters and explorers from around the world. Spree Park opened in 1969 and was once packed with families, rides, food stands, even elaborate themed sections. After the Berlin Wall fell, things changed fast. The park hit financial trouble, went bankrupt, and even shut down. But the strange part came after. The former owner, in desperation, used old amusement rides to smuggle narcotics across borders. Yes, actual amusement rides stuffed with illegal cargo. That bizarre criminal twist added a very dark lore to an already eerie place. After the park closed, nature took over aggressively. Roller coaster tracks are now tangled in vines, paddle boats sit half buried in swampy water, and animatronic dinosaurs lie collapsed like ancient fossils. Explorers often describe hearing footsteps behind them or feeling watched from inside broken ride buildings. Some even claim to hear faint carnival music at night, music the park hasn't played in decades. So Spree Park doesn't feel empty, it feels alert. Lake Shawnee Amusement Park in West Virginia. Now, before Lake Shawnee was an amusement park, the land was the site of a violent clash between settlers and the Shawnee tribe, a conflict that left several children deceased. When the park was built decades later, tragedy struck all over again. The people began wondering if the land itself was just cursed. From the 1920s to the 1960s, Lake Shawnee was a buzzing local attraction, but the demises didn't stop. A little girl in a pink dress passed away on the swing ride after a truck backed into it while she was still riding. 2 more children actually drowned in the park's swimming area. After multiple tragedies, the park shut down and people started asking questions. Today, the swing still stands and the Ferris wheel still towers above the trees, but the energy around them, completely unexplainable. Ghost hunters and investigators have called Lake Shawnee one of the most active paranormal sites in America. People report seeing a little girl in a pink dress near the swings. Some have captured EVPs of children laughing or crying. Others feel sudden cold patches of air even in the middle of summer. And some explorers say they feel like they're being followed. Every ride seems to have a story. Every inch of ground feels haunted by history and heartbreak. Holy Land, USA in Connecticut. Now, this one isn't your typical amusement park. Holy Land, USA was a massive biblical themed attraction built in the 1950s, complete with miniature cities, altars, statues, and recreations of stories from the Bible. It once drew crowds of over 40,000 people a year. But when the creator passed away in the 1980s, the park was left to rot. What once felt holy now feels unsettling in a way that's kind of hard to describe. Miniature stone villages lie crumbling under overgrown, vines. Statues of angels and prophets stand cracked, decayed, and leaning at unnatural angles angles. I mean, the giant cross overlooking the property casts a very long shadow across pathways no one has walked in decades. Locals say the place becomes, terrifying at night. Explorers have reported hearing footsteps on gravel when no one is there. Some claim to have heard whispering near broken down altars. A few describe the feeling of being watched constantly, especially when walking through the miniature Jerusalem ruins. The energy isn't chaotic like other parks, it's quiet, but very heavy. It feels like something sacred was disturbed, and whatever is left behind doesn't want company at all. An assassination occurred on the grounds in 2010, deepening the park's unsettling reputation. Some believe the land absorbed the violence and that it kind of stirred something dark. Okpo Land in South Korea. Okpo Land is the kind of urban legend that turned out to be real, and what happened there is the stuff of nightmares. In the 1990s, Okpo Land was a very colorful, family-friendly amusement park, but one ride became infamous, a duck-shaped roller coaster. Rumor says a young girl passed away after a cart derailed. Whether the exact details were covered up or distorted over time, the fact remains several accidents happened, and one of them involved a child. Instead of shutting the ride permanently, the park reportedly kept operating. That decision turned Okpo Land into a cautionary tale and a very haunting one. When the park finally closed in 1999, workers simply just walked away. They didn't pack up rides, they didn't store equipment, they didn't even remove the derailed cart where the accident happened. Everything was just left exactly as it was, frozen in a moment of terror. Explorers who visited before it was demolished described eerie children's laughter echoing through the empty park. Some claimed the duck ride still made squeaking noises at random times, and others felt watched by something they just could not explain. Even though the park was eventually torn down, the legend of Okpo Land refuses to pass on. I mean, people say the spirits of the children who lost their lives there still remain, and that the land itself carries the memory of tragedy. So these abandoned amusement parks aren't just rotting tourist destinations, they're time capsules of tragedy, sorrow, and unresolved stories. When we see a Ferris wheel frozen in place, or a rusting roller coaster, or swings rocking in the wind with no one near them, it becomes impossible not to feel something watching. These parks remind us that the line between joy and horror is razor thin. A place to design, or was designed to create laughter can just as easily trap it, echo it, twist it into something very unsettling. And even though these parks are empty, they never truly feel alone. Greyfriars Kirkyard in Scotland. If you've ever rolled your eyes at the idea of a violent ghost, just wait until you hear about the place where hundreds of visitors have reported being scratched, bruised, shoved, and even knocked unconscious. And yes, it's all documented. Greyfriars Kirkyard isn't just haunted, it's the only graveyard in the world where officials literally had to lock a tomb shut because the ghost inside was attacking people. Greyfriars sits in the heart of Edinburgh, Scotland. Beautiful, old, dark, and exactly the kind of place where, Shakespeare would have set up an assassination. For centuries, it was just another historic cemetery until the 1990s, when the ghost of one of Scotland's most brutal men apparently woke up. His name was Sir George Mackenzie, known in history as Bloody Mackenzie, for imprisoning, tormenting, and unaliving thousands of Covenanters in the 1600s. His mausoleum sits near the section of the graveyard where he buried the people he oppressed. And in 1999, a homeless man broke into the tomb to sleep for the night. That's when things got weird. The man fell through a rotten floorboard and crashed into a hidden chamber filled with bones. After running out screaming, people who visited the mausoleum started reporting being pushed, scratched, or even feeling sick. Then the injuries escalated. Paranormal investigators documented cuts, burns, bite marks, and full-on collapse episodes by tourists who didn't even believe in ghosts. The city eventually closed off Mackenzie's tomb and installed basically a gate, but the attacks continued. The guide opened it again for Mackenzie's poltergeist tours, and that's when the phenomenon exploded. Now, over the years, there have been over 500 official injury reports, many photographed and, filled or filed by the tour company and local authorities. Even skeptics walked out with scratches they just couldn't explain. Some visitors fainted the moment they stepped near the tomb. Some vomited. One woman claimed she was pushed so hard her ribs bruised, and another described hearing screaming inside the locked mausoleum. Now, and almost everyone who gets touched describes the same thing, like a kind of cold force, like fingers digging into their skin. Even today, locals refuse to walk near the Covenanters, prison at night. Police won't patrol inside. The city rarely allows open access because people keep getting hurt. And the creepiest part, well, Mackenzie's, has been found burning from the inside twice without any heat source. Firefighters describe the interior as hotter than a furnace, but nothing nothing around it had been burned. Whatever is in that tomb isn't resting, and visitors keep paying money to prove it. Stull Cemetery in Kansas. If you're driving through rural Kansas and pass a tiny town called Stull, keep going. Do not stop, because according to legend and a surprising amount of real documentation, this quiet cemetery is one of the 7 gates of hell. The stories surrounding Stull Cemetery go back over 100 years, but the strangest part is how many witnesses swear they've seen the same horrifying things: apparitions, disappearing structures, sudden storms, and the figure known only as the Tall Man. The curse supposedly began in the late 1800s when a local farmer found his wife and newborn deceased in a field, unalived by an unnatural wind, according to the town's own historical records. After that, bizarre passings and freak accidents became oddly common in the area. Locals whispered that something was wrong with the land itself. Then came the biggest piece of lore, that Satan appeared at Stull Cemetery twice a year, on the spring equinox and, of course, on Halloween, using the abandoned stone church as a portal. Many call it superstition until you hear the eyewitness accounts. In the 1970s, University of Kansas students tried to debunk the rumors and visited the cemetery on Halloween. Now, they reported that the air suddenly went silent, no wind, no animals, no sound, and then a massive force pushed them backwards, hard enough that one girl had bruises across her chest. They left terrified, of course. Now, around the same time, multiple visitors claimed to see a man in a black coat walking amongst the gravestones, but he wasn't touching the ground. Some saw glowing lights moving between the trees, others swore they heard voices under the earth, moaning, whispering, or even calling their name. And then there's the church. It used to be an old roofless stone building, but locals said no matter how heavy the snow, the interior never accumulated a single flake. University students filmed this in the 1980s. Snow piled outside, perfectly dry, inside, untouched. Some believe the church was a focal point of the haunting. Now, in 2002, the building mysteriously collapsed entirely on its own. No storm, no construction, no warning, just gone. Almost immediately, the property's owner put up fences, hired security, and began threatening trespassers. They refused to speak about the cemetery. Police regularly patrol the area because too many people have tried to investigate and too many leave terrified or injured. Visitors describe hearing footsteps following them, shadows moving between the stones, and a sudden pressure in the air that feels like someone is standing inches behind you. Whether Stull Cemetery is a literal gateway to hell or just the site of an enormous concentration of dark folklore, no one who goes there ever forgets it. LaNoria Cemetery in Chile. Now imagine visiting a cemetery in an abandoned mining town and seeing people walking between the graves only to realize they're not alive. That's exactly what tourists, explorers, and even local journalists have claimed to witness at LaNoria, a desolate ghost town in Chile's Atacama Desert. Now, LaNoria was once a thriving 19th century mining community, but workers were treated brutally. Many perished from exhaustion, accidents, violent conflict, or disease. The deceased were buried quickly and cheaply in a makeshift graveyard on the edge of town. When the mines collapsed economically, the town was abandoned almost overnight. Houses, schools, and stores were left frozen in time, but the place didn't stay quiet. The cemetery sits on a hill of cracked earth, the sun bleaching old wooden coffins until they split open. Yes, open. And in LaNoria, many coffins lie exposed, bones still inside, untouched for decades. And that's where the reports begin. I mean, for years, travelers have described seeing skeletal figures standing beside the graveyard fence, watching silently. Others claim they heard footsteps behind them, even when the desert was completely empty. In 2003, a group of Chilean journalists visited to document the town's history. That night, several of them reported seeing silhouettes moving between the graves. When they shined lights on them, the figures vanished instantly. One journalist later said he saw a man wearing old miners' clothing, but his face was missing. The creepiest part is that nearly every team that visits LaNoria independently reported the same thing: figures roaming the cemetery at night, not just shadows, full-on silhouettes. Some explorers captured photos of what looked like people walking in the distance, only there were no other visitors anywhere near the site. Many believe the restless spirits of miners who passed away under horrific conditions remain trapped in the place they were abandoned. Locals from nearby towns refuse to go near LaNoria after dark. They say the deceased are, unfinished and walk because they never received proper burials. Some believe the spirits warn visitors to leave before something follows them home. And considering how many paranormal investigators claim their equipment shuts off instantly the moment they enter the cemetery, maybe maybe the deceased aren't interested in being filmed at all. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, this is in Illinois. Now, if you ever wanted proof that entire structures can be haunted, look no further than Bachelor's Grove, one of the most paranormally active cemeteries in the United States. This place has everything: apparitions, phantom lights, mob activity, mysterious passings, and a literal disappearing house. Bachelor's Grove started as a small family cemetery in the 1800s, but by the early 1900s, it became a dumping ground, literally. Chicago mobsters allegedly buried bodies here during the Prohibition era, and locals reported hearing firearms go off and screams in the woods long after. The activity really exploded in the 1960s when police started catching people sneaking into the cemetery at night. Most said they were there because they heard stories of ghost sightings, especially the woman in white, seen sitting on a bench holding a little baby. She's one of the most photographed apparitions in American history, but the wildest phenomenon is the phantom farmhouse. Dozens of witnesses over decades have reported seeing a glowing white house appearing in the woods near the cemetery. The strange part? Well, it's never in the same place twice. People say they see it clearly: windows, porch, swinging lantern, and when they approach, it flickers and vanishes. Photographers once captured a faint outline of the house on film, even though nothing was even there. Then there are the infamous glowing orbs, bright blush lights that float over the pond near the cemetery. In the 1970s, police officers responded to calls about lights moving around the graveyard. When they walked in, the lights darted away like something holding lanterns, except no one else was there. Visitors also report being touched, grabbed, or shoved on the path leading inside. Cars parked outside have been known to stall and not restart until pushed away from the area. One of the strangest incidents happened when multiple people witnessed a ghostly horse and wagon emerging from the pond, complete with a phantom driver. Now, according to historical records, a farmer once actually drowned there when his horse panicked and pulled the wagon into the water. The apparition matches the story precisely. So with decades of police reports, witness accounts, and photographs, Bachelor's Grove isn't just haunted, it's a full-blown paranormal ecosystem. The Old Jewish Cemetery of Prague. Now, if you want to see a cemetery that defies logic, you need to hear about the Old Jewish Cemetery in Prague, the oldest surviving Jewish burial site in Europe and one of the strangest looking cemeteries on Earth. Walking into it feels like stepping into another world. The ground is unnaturally high, over 12 feet in some areas, and the headstones lean at impossible angles, jammed together so tightly they look like a stone forest, and there's a reason for that. For centuries, Prague's Jewish community was confined to a tiny section of the city and legally forbidden from expanding the cemetery's land. But their population kept growing, so instead of removing the deceased, they buried new graves on top of old ones, again and again and again. Over 350 years, they created layers of graves up to 12 deep. More than 100,000 people are believed to rest there, stacked in vertical layers. And that's where the legend begins, because locals claim the spirits here are restless, not malicious, but active. Many visitors report hearing whispers between the stones, like prayers or murmured conversation. Some even claim the ground vibrates underfoot, especially in the oldest part of the cemetery where the layers are densest. Now, there are also stories about Rabbi Judah Lo Ben Bezalel, hopefully I'm saying that right, known for creating a mythical golem of Prague. Now, his grave sits in this cemetery, and people leave tiny notes and stones on it asking for wishes, protection, or even miracles. Many claim that if you disrespect the cemetery or fail to honor tradition, strange things happen. Memory lapses, sudden illnesses, equipment failure, or overwhelming feelings of dread. Now, in the 1980s, security guards reported seeing a tall, shadowy figure moving near Rabbi Lau's grave. They said the figure left no footprints, even in fresh snow. One guard quit the same night. Visitors often capture photos with unexplained blue light streaks, even when no reflective surfaces are present. And some claim to have filmed faces appearing behind headstones, even though no one was there. People who wander off the main path sometimes get disoriented, reporting that the cemetery seems to shift around them. So many describe it as energy more than a haunting, like, the voices of thousands of souls watching in silence. So even historians admit the atmosphere here is unlike any other burial site in the world. With its towering gravestone forest, deep layers of the deceased, and centuries of mysticism, the Old Jewish Cemetery feels less like a graveyard and more like a portal into something ancient. The Island of the Dolls, a nightmare hanging in the trees. At first it feels like a prank, a strange art installation, something unsettling, but harmless. harmless. Then you look closer and realize every doll is watching you. Hidden in the canals of Mexico City is a small island covered entirely in decaying dolls. Hundreds of them, headless, eyeless, limbs missing, hanging from trees, nailed to walls, stuffed into corners like offerings. So the story begins though with a man named Don Julian Santana Barrera, who lived alone on the island for decades. Now, according to local accounts, he discovered the body of a young girl who had drowned in the canal near his home. Soon after, a doll floated by. He actually hung the doll up as a sign of respect, but the dolls never stopped coming. Over the years, Don Julian claimed the girl's spirit haunted him. He believed the dolls were possessed, or that hanging them would appease her spirit, so he collected them obsessively from trash heaps and canals, never, really cleaning them, never repairing them, just as they rotted, and he left them exactly as they were. Visitors who met him said he spoke to the dolls, that he rearranged them at night, and that he believed that they protected him. But then in the early 2000s, Don Julian was actually found deceased, and he drowned in the same canal where the girl had supposedly passed away years earlier. Today, tourists that, visit the island by boat, and many actually leave shaken though, because people report dolls turning their heads, blinking, whispering, or moving when no wind is present, and cameras malfunction, batteries drain rapidly. Some visitors even swear they hear laughter or footsteps following them through the trees. Now, whether the dolls are haunted or not, one thing is undeniable: the island is a physical manifestation of obsession, grief, and fear, hanging silently, waiting to be noticed. Hashima Island. Now, from a distance, it looks like a warship rising from the sea, gray, solid, lifeless, but this isn't a ship. It's an entire city that was abandoned almost instantly. Hashima Island, also known as Battleship Island, once held one of the highest population densities on Earth. Thousands of people lived stacked in concrete apartment blocks surrounded by ocean on all sides. The island thrived because of coal mining. Families lived there, children went to school, life happened, birthdays, marriage, arguments, routines. But then in the 1970s, the coal ran out. The company shut the mines with little warning, and within weeks, the population just vanished. Furniture was left behind, classrooms still had chalk on the boards, and toys sat where children had last dropped them. Nature took over fast. Salt air kind of corroded, metal. Concrete basically started to crack, and buildings basically collapsed inward, and stairwells now led to nothing. Apartments, kind of reminded of lives interrupted. Now, visitors today to actually describe a feeling of being watched. Wind kind of funnels through corridors, creating sounds like voices calling from behind walls, and footsteps echo where no one walks. The island feels frozen, not abandoned, but kind of paused mid-breath. Hashima isn't haunted by spirits in the traditional sense. It's haunted by absence, by the sudden disappearance of thousands of lives. Deception Island. This is Antarctica's volcanic ghost harbor. The name alone should warn you. Deception Island is a ring-shaped island in Antarctica that hides a flooded volcano inside. Ships enter through a narrow passage and suddenly find themselves inside a massive natural harbor, calm, silent, but completely wrong. In the early 1900s, whalers built stations here. Later, scientists and military personnel followed. For a time, it was one of the busiest locations in Antarctica, and then the island kind of reminded, everyone why it was never meant to actually be lived on. In the 1960s, volcanic eruptions tore through the island without warning. Buildings were buried in ash, equipment was abandoned mid-use, and entire bases were evacuated in a rush, leaving behind vehicles, fuel tanks, and personal belongings. Today, the remains sit exactly where they were left. Rusting machinery just kind of juts out of black sand beaches, and collapsed huts sit half buried in snow. Now, visitors describe the island as deeply unsettling. Fog rolls in suddenly, erasing the horizon. Sounds carry strangely. Footsteps crunch where no one is actually visible. Some expedition members report hearing voices or feeling intense dread without explanation. And in one of the most remote places on Earth, Deception Island feels watched, as if, the land itself remembers who tried to claim it. Hart Island, America's largest mass grave. Now, just off the coast of New York City, sits an island most residents don't even realize actually exists. exists. There's no houses, no neighborhoods, no residents, just rows and rows and rows of forgotten graves. Hart Island has been used for over 150 years as a burial ground for the unclaimed, the poor, the unidentified, the abandoned, and the forgotten. Over 1 million people are buried here. Now, children, infants, victims of epidemics, prisoners, those whose families couldn't afford funerals. Bodies were stacked in simple wooden coffins and buried in long trenches, marked only by numbers. Now, the island was also home to prisons, asylums, and hospitals throughout its history. Suffering wasn't just buried here, it happened here. Access to Hart Island has always been very tightly controlled. For decades, inmates were forced to dig graves. Families were rarely allowed to visit. People who have been there describe an overwhelming silence, not peaceful, but very heavy, and fog kind of drifts between the trees. Old buildings are slowly starting to crumble. The ground itself, feels weighted with memory. There are no jump scares here, no, shadows darting between trees, just the very unsettling reality of how many lives ended without being remembered. So Hart Island doesn't need ghosts to be haunted. These islands aren't haunted because of legends alone. They're haunted because of what happened when humans isolated suffering, fear, obsession, and demise and kind of left it behind. Some places don't want us back, and some stories don't need embellishment. They just kind of wait for someone brave enough to tell them. The Crescent Hotel doesn't ease you in gently. People don't talk about strange feelings or vague unease here. They talk about being touched, followed, watched, and spoken to by people who shouldn't exist. Perched high in the Ozarks, the Crescent Hotel opened in the late 1800s as a luxury Victorian resort. It was meant to be a place of healing, fresh air, and elegance, but that promise did not last long. Over the decades, the building changed hands and purposes, and one chapter in particular stained it permanently. Now, in the 1930s, the hotel was taken over by a man claiming he had discovered a miracle cure for cancer. He converted the elegant hotel into a so-called hospital, bringing in desperately ill patients from across the country. The treatments were fake, the promises were lies, and many of those patients never actually left alive. Guests today are told the bodies were quietly transported through the building, sometimes stored in the basement, sometimes removed under cover of darkness. Staff members say the atmosphere changes the moment you step into the old hospital areas. The air feels heavier, the silence feels intentional. Now, room 218 is infamous. It's said to be occupied by the spirit of a stonemason who fell to his demise during construction. Guests staying there report lights flickering on and off, voices whispering their names, and the very unsettling sensation of someone just kind of standing directly beside the bed. Then there's the woman believed to be named Theodora. Guests described waking up to find her belongings nearly rearranged, their blankets tucked tighter, or the distinct feeling of being watched from the corner of the room. Some even claim they've spoken to her, only to realize later no one was physically there. Now, in the old morgue, visitors report shadow figures drifting or darting across the walls, children's laughter echoing through empty corridors, and doors slamming shut without any explanation. Paranormal investigators have captured audio recordings of voices responding unintelligently to questions. Now, what makes the Crescent especially terrifying isn't just the number of ghost stories, it's the consistency here. Different people, different decades, same rooms, same encounters. People check in for a weekend getaway, some leave convinced they were never alone. The Menger Hotel sits calmly beside the Alamo, but its calm is deceptive. This building stands on land soaked in violence, history, and very unfinished business, and many believe that energy just never dissipated. Opened in the late 1850s, the Menger quickly became a gathering place for soldiers, politicians, and powerful figures, but alongside, its prestigious guests came demise, heartbreak, and betrayal. One of the most commonly reported spirits is a woman known as Sally. She was chambermaid who lived and worked inside the hotel. Now, according to long-standing accounts, her life ended violently, and she actually never truly left. Staff members say they've seen her pushing a cleaning cart through empty hallways late at night. Guests report feeling their blankets tugged, their pillows adjusted slightly, or or someone just sitting briefly on the edge of their bed before disappearing. But, Sally isn't alone. There are reports of children running through the halls laughing, only for staff to discover no children are actually staying on that floor. Some guests claim to hear heavy boots pacing above them, even when no one is checked into the rooms overhead. Now, the bar area is especially active. Patrons describe glasses moving on their own, cold gusts of air passing through closed rooms, and the very unmistakable smell of cigar smoke lingering in places where smoking hasn't been allowed for decades. Now, some believe the spirits of former soldiers still gather there, kind of replaying conversations that ended long ago. Others believe the hotel itself absorbed too much history to ever truly rest. Now, guests often say the same thing after staying at the Menger. They didn't believe in ghosts before they arrived, but they weren't so sure once they left. The Stanley Hotel doesn't jump out at you with screams or shadows. It works slowly, quietly, and that's what makes it dangerous. Set against the mountains of Colorado, this grand early 1900s hotel inspired one of the most famous horror stories of all time. But the stories that come from the Stanley didn't start with fiction. They started with guests who couldn't explain what they were experiencing. People report hearing piano music echoing through empty ballrooms. Others describe children laughing in the hallways late at night, even when the hotel is nearly empty. Now, room 217 is the most notorious. Guests staying there report doors opening and closing on their own, lights switching without any explanation, and a very intense feeling of just being watched while trying to sleep. Now, some refuse to stay the entire night, and I don't blame them. The original owners are believed to still appear from time to time, dressed formally, silently observing guests that, and then they vanish just without a trace. What makes the Stanley especially unsettling is how gentle the hauntings feel at first. Nothing aggressive, nothing overly violent, just enough to make you question your own senses. And then it escalates. People wake up with handprints on mirrors that weren't there before. Voices are heard calling names that don't belong to anyone currently staying at the hotel, and security cameras have captured doors moving on their own. The Stanley doesn't chase you, it waits. And for many guests, that's a lot worse. The Cecil Hotel doesn't feel haunted in a traditional way, it feels cursed. Now, located in downtown Los Angeles, the Cecil has been linked to demise, violence, and despair for decades. Serial slayers once stayed there, countless, unalivings occurred inside its walls, but one story pushed the Cecil into global notoriety. A young woman named Elisa Lam checked into the hotel and simply vanished. Now, days later, security footage showed her inside an elevator, behaving erratically, pressing a whole bunch of buttons, hiding, peering into the hallway as if something unseen was approaching her. Now, weeks later, her body actually was found in a rooftop water tank. The footage went absolutely viral. You'd have to be living under a rock to not know this one. The theories exploded. People around the world dissected every movement, every gesture, every shadow. Some believed she was being followed. Others believed she was being influenced by something supernatural inside the building. Guests who stayed at the Cecil before and after reported strange noises, doors slamming, footsteps pacing outside their rooms, and just this sense of dread. Now, even those who dismiss paranormal explanations admit something about the Cecil just feels wrong. The building seems to attract tragedy like gravity. Renovations have tried to cleanse its, reputation. New names, new paint, new management, but the stories don't stop. Some places don't need ghosts to be haunted. The history alone is enough. The Copper Queen Hotel feels different from the others. Now, the haunting here are quieter, it's closer, it's a little more personal. Built at the height of Arizona's mining boom, the Copper Queen has hosted miners, politicians, and travelers for over a century, and many people believe some of them never just checked out. The most frequently mentioned spirit is a woman believed to have passed away after a broken heart. Now, guests report hearing very soft footsteps following them down hallways, only to turn around and find no one's actually there. Male guests often report something far more disturbing, a woman's voice whispering directly into their ear when they're alone, which might be nice sometimes, but usually isn't. Not shouting, not screaming, just close enough to make the hairs on their neck stand up, and not in a good way. Others report feeling a presence sit beside them on the bed, or seeing a woman dancing at the bottom of the stairs before vanishing mid-step. Now, the Copper Queen doesn't rely on jump scares. It invades personal space, and for many guests, that makes it completely unforgettable, Now, if you ever find yourself staying in one of these hotels, listen closely, okay? Because something might be listening back.
Our first stop takes us to Kansas City, Missouri, and St. Mary's Episcopal Church. Here, rumors persist of a 19th century priest whose spirit is unable to find peace. this was no ordinary priest. Arriving in a city rife with anti-Catholic sentiment, his own leanings towards Catholic traditions and rumors of scandalous behavior made him a target. Accusations flew, his reputation was dragged through the mud, and ultimately his life ended abruptly by poison. But his passing was not the end for Father Jardine. Many who have been near St. Mary's late at night report an unsettling feeling of being watched. Strange footsteps echo in the empty building, and the phantom scent of incense fills the air, even when no candles are lit. Some have even claimed to see the shadowy figure of a priest with a flickering candle in the second-story window, a silent sentinel forever bound to the church he served and the controversies that consumed him. Father Jardine's spirit, forever in torment, a chilling reminder that judgment and scandal can leave an indelible mark, even in the most sacred of places. Our next destination leads us to the vibrant yet haunted city of New Orleans, Louisiana, and the majestic St. Louis Cathedral. Beneath its soaring spires and stained glass windows lurks the spectral presence of Père Antoine. This man of the cloth was a significant figure in the city's early days, even officiating the marriage of the legendary voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. But his story has a darker twist. Whispers claim Père Antoine was secretly connected to the Spanish Inquisition. Though eventually exiled and later returning as a beloved figure, some believe the weight of his past deeds, the secrets he carried, tether his spirit to the cathedral grounds. They say his shadowy figure can still be glimpsed through the stained glass windows during Mass, a silent observer of the faithful. Others claim to feel his unseen presence in the quiet gardens behind the cathedral, a lingering echo of a life intertwined with both the sacred and the shadowed. Père Antoine, forever bound to the St. Louis Cathedral, a haunting reminder that even within holy walls, secrets can leave an eternal imprint. Across the Atlantic, in Louisville, Kentucky, stands the imposing First Church of Christ Scientist. Here, tragedy has woven a dark thread into the fabric of the building. Local sightings of the Lady of the Stairs, a young woman, forever pacing the steps. They say she was a member of a prominent family, deeply in love with a soldier. Their secret meetings took place right here, on these very stairs, under the watchful gaze of the church. Their plan was to escape, to be together despite her family's wishes. But on the night they were to meet at this sacred place, he never came. She waited, a jilted bride, her heart shattering with each passing moment. Unbeknownst to her, tragedy had struck. Her beloved soldier had succumbed to illness at a nearby camp. Chilled to the bone, believing herself abandoned, she returned home, only to fall ill herself. And in a cruel twist of fate, she too passed away, never knowing the truth. Now, they say her spectral figure still walks those stairs, forever waiting for a love that will never return. We now journey north to Manitoba, Canada, and the seemingly serene saint. Andrews on the red. But don't let its peaceful facade fool you. This historic church is said to be haunted by not one, but two unsettling figures. Who are they? Some say they might be former community members, their spirits unable to find rest. Others speculate they could be Captain William Kennedy and his wife. Their story now woven into the very fabric of this haunted place. The church itself seems to hold its breath, with reports of the antique pipe organ playing by itself when no one is there. And those who dare to venture near at night speak of glowing red eyes that drift through the cemetery trees, watching, waiting. St. Andrews on the Red, a place where history and the supernatural collide, a chilling reminder that some stories and some spirits never truly fade. Our final stop brings us to the ancient heart of London, England, to St Bartholomew's Church. Within the ancient walls of St Bartholomew's Church, a figure is said to roam, the ghost of a monk named Raher. This was no ordinary cleric. In the 12th century, Raher, a man known for his charm, experienced a powerful vision that led to the very founding of this sacred place. But his connection to the church didn't end with his passing. Centuries later, during renovations, Raher's tomb was opened. Inside, his skeleton lay undisturbed, still wearing his monk sandals. And here's where the tale takes a truly unsettling turn. It's said that a workman, in a moment of thoughtless folly, took one of Raher's sandals, bones and all. Days later, the man returned, pale and shaken, claiming a sudden illness had befallen him. He returned the sandal, but the damage was done. Legend now chills the very stones of St. Bartholomew's. On moonlit nights, they say the spectral form of Raher can be seen gliding through the aisles, a silent, desperate search in his eternal quest for his missing foot. A ghostly monk, forever bound to his earthly remains, a chilling reminder that even in hallowed halls, some spirits find no rest. Join us next time if you dare.
Number 5, Otero County Courthouse, New Mexico. In the quiet corners of Alamogordo, New Mexico, I swear I looked that up, lies the Otero County Courthouse, a place where the line between the living and the spectral seems to blur. Those who labor within its walls have stories that chill the very marrow of one's bones. An entity from the, depths of the past, seemingly from the early 1900s, tends to emerge from the shadows. Witnesses have reported sightings of this specter, donned in a timeless suit that echoes an era long past. But it's not just apparitions that haunt this courthouse. It's the inexplicable phenomena that defies the laws of physics. Doors, once left ajar, abruptly close of their own volition, and objects, seemingly devoid of reason, plummet to the ground. Surveillance cameras bore witness to the eerie descent of a donation jar in a bowl on an x-ray machine, casting aside any doubts of, a natural explanation. It went from being, there to and there was nobody there. For the courthouse's, beleaguered employees, such occurrences are far from isolated incidents. They become the unsettling rhythm of daily life. When the donation jar defies gravity's grasp and crashes, echoing in the empty halls, it serves as a reminder that here, the ordinary has become the extraordinary. One tale recounted by a brave employee takes us into the restroom, where the mundane transitions into the uncanny. While standing alone, she felt an invisible hand tugging at her hair, a sensation that defies rational explanation. In that moment, the solitude of the restroom was shattered by an unseen presence, a ghostly interloper, if you will. Maintenance man Kenneth Schaefer, no stranger to the courthouse's peculiarities, speaks of doors that defy logic. They stand ajar, only to slam shut as if guided by an unseen hand. A stroll through the courtroom can send shivers down one's spine, as an unexplainable chill pierces through their very being, as if the air itself bears the weight of restless spirits. The history of the Otero County Courthouse is steeped in the echoes of the past. A modern structure completed in 1956, it stands upon the remnants of an earlier courthouse, constructed between 1901 and 1903. But it's the specter of a troubled soul from the 1960s or 70s that lingers, a man who chose to end his own life. His presence, or perhaps his torment, has seeped into the very foundations of that place. In the courthouse, the veil between the corporeal and the ethereal grows very, very thin. Number 4, Monroe County Courthouse in Arkansas. The Monroe County Courthouse, a seemingly innocuous edifice, conceals a sinister past that continues to haunt its halls to this day. In the year 1898, the courthouse bore witness to a gruesome racial killing that birthed the malevolent spirits that now reside within. Ghost Eyes, the, harbinger of the eerie, divulges stories of mournful cries emanating from its basement, serving as a chilling reminder of that fateful day. What transpired here was a harrowing sequence of events that shook the very foundation of this community. The roots of this macabre tale stretch back to the troubled household of John and Mabel Orr, where domestic discord festered like a dark omen. John, an actor by profession, was rumored to have subjected his wife Mabel to unspeakable cruelty, igniting violent clashes that punctuated their marriage. However, On that fateful August 5th, fate would deliver a gruesome twist. An unknown assailant shattered the tranquility of their home, taking John's life in a horrifying manner through the kitchen window. Rumors swirled like malevolent spirits, suggesting Mabel's complicity in her husband's demise, intertwined with the ominous presence of voodoo. As the shadows deepened, Mabel's fate took a sinister turn. Mabel, ensnared by the tendrils of guilt and despair, chose to end her own life, poisoning herself in the bleak confines of the courthouse's basement jail. But the horrors were far from over. 4 servants of the Orr family, Mance Castle, Will Sanders, Rilla Weaver, Sanders' mother, and Dennis Rickard, found themselves incarcerated alongside the tormented spirit of Mabel. The abyss of human darkness consumed them as a meticulously organized mob descended upon the jail, snatching these souls from their mortal coil on August 9th. The maid, Susie Jacobs, also met her gruesome end at the hands of this merciless assembly. The Encyclopedia of Arkansas History and Culture recounts the grim spectacle of Mabel's lifeless form, put on grisly display within the courthouse, serving as a grim testament that she had not escaped her tormentors. The courthouse, once a symbol of justice, now stands as a malevolent sentinel, guarding the secrets of that gruesome summer. Number 3. Navajo County Courthouse in Arizona. Within the haunted tales of American courthouses, the old Navajo County Courthouse emerges as a sinister enigma, where the spirit of George Smiley is said to linger. Smiley's grim fate was sealed when he faced a death sentence for the killing of a railroad foreman, a crime that would shroud the courthouse in an unsettling legacy. Sheriff Frank Watron's macabre sense of humor cast an eerie pall over Smiley's impending execution. He dispatched gilded invitations for the hanging, a grotesque spectacle set for November 11th of 1899. But this twisted jest proved too much for the sensibilities of President McKinley and Governor Nathan Murphy, who swiftly reprimanded Watron, postponing the execution. In response, the sheriff issued another set of invitations, this time veiled in mournful language and adorned with a black border, signaling the ultimate demise of George Smiley on January 8th of 1900. But, the story doesn't end with Smiley's execution. According to a column in the Examiner, the old courthouse now houses the local historical society, but its halls are far from quiet. Eerie noises reverberate throughout the building, and objects move of their own accord, as if guided by unseen hands. It is here that these spectral roommates, including George Smiley and Sheriff Watron himself, are said to coexist in the realm of the beyond, their presence an enduring enigma. Far from the dusty trails of Navajo County, the Lincoln County Courthouse in Wiscasset, Maine, harbors its own spectral mysteries. In 2011, the courthouse was thrown into a state of disquiet when a motion-sensitive security camera captured eerie footage. County Commissioner Sheridan Bond, armed with a magnifying glass, scrutinized a still frame from the recording, believing he could see a spectral visage within the mysterious entity. Others, although uncertain about the existence of a face, agreed that the camera unequivocally captured something that we can't explain. Oh, the eerie occurrences doesn't end there. That's way too easy. Workers in the district attorney's office have reported sightings of a shadowy figure, manifesting in the late afternoon and early evening, casting a chilling pall over the courthouse. WCSH, the local station, embarked on a quest to, unveil the identity of the entity haunting the courthouse. However, their efforts yielded no definitive answers. The enigma persists, shrouded in the mists of time and history. The courthouse itself, with its origins dating back to 1824, has borne witness to a multitude of souls, some incarcerated, others executed, their stories etched into the very walls of the building. Number 2. Dacia County Courthouse in Arkansas. So, nestled in the heart of Arkansas City, this courthouse holds a spectral secret that has intrigued ghost hunters and courthouse workers alike. Here, the haunting presence of a ghost known as Willard weaves its haunting tapestry throughout the building, defying the bounds of human logic. Local legend intertwines with the supernatural in a tale that centers around the courthouse's clock tower. An unsettling belief holds that the clock, perched high in its tower, has been cursed since the turn of the 20th century. The curse, it is said, was cast by a condemned man who met his grisly end on the courthouse lawn. The alleged arson of a string of hotels, a charge he vehemently denied. In a curious twist, County Judge Mark McElroy once made a campaign promise to mend the clock, as reported by, the local Gazette. However, the appointed clock technician tasked with repairing the timepiece dispelled the supernatural aura surrounding it. In his words, back in the old days, they probably did hang somebody out there on the front of the courthouse, or on the steps of the courthouse, or up in the tower of the courthouse, or whatever. I don't dispute that one bit, and the guy may have cursed them on the clock, but that's not the problem with the clock. It's just an old clock, and it needs tender loving care. All of them are that way. Alright, pal. The cryptic saga of the county courthouse embodies the confluence of folklore, history, and the supernatural. Willard's ghostly presence lingers, a reminder that even in the realm of the mundane, the boundaries between fact and legend can blur. Whether it's a cursed clock or the echoes of a tragic past, the courthouse stands as a testament to the enduring mysteries that shroud these haunted halls. Number 1. Mitchell Courthouse in Baltimore. In the corridors of the Clarence M. Mitchell Jr. Courthouse, nestled in Baltimore, Maryland, a spectral presence is said to roam an apparition of historical significance. Supreme Court Justice Roger B. Taney, infamous for the polarizing, Dred Scott decision, is believed to be the source of the unexplained phenomena that has unnerved those who tread upon this hallowed legal ground. Attorney Adam Sean Cohen's harrowing experience within these haunted walls serves as a testament to the otherworldly ambiance that permeates the courthouse. So during a court proceeding, Cohen was gripped by an inexplicable dread, likening the sensation to the frigid aura of a grocery store's frozen food section, where the coldness surrounds you while warmth beckons from within. Overwhelmed by this uncanny sensation, Cohen abruptly left the courtroom, a decision unimaginable in normal circumstances, as judges are typically treated with the utmost, respect. Circuit Judge Wanda Keys Heard, presiding over the proceedings, showed a remarkable understanding of Cohen's abrupt exit. She herself believes that the courthouse is under the spectral watch of justice, that has passed, whose name I don't want to bug her up again. This belief is underscored by the presence of, the name etched upon the dome of the courthouse, a chilling reminder of the historical legacy that lingers. Heard, a descendant of those who endured the dark days of, bad things, humorously speculated that this guy might harbor some reservations about her role in the legal proceedings. However, a curious twist emerges when the courthouse's historian sheds light on the situation. While this ghostly presence is rumored to haunt the courthouse, historical records reveal a peculiar detail. The esteemed justice was never actually inside the courthouse during his lifetime. The courthouse itself was constructed in 900, long after this man's passing in 1864. Instead, it was a neighboring building, now demolished, where this presence resided, a location that has seemingly left quite the mark on the surrounding area. The spectral enigma of the courthouse serves as a chilling reminder that history has a peculiar way of transcending time and place. This justice's ghostly presence, though physically distant from the courthouse itself, continues to cast its ethereal shadow over the legal proceedings that unfold within its walls. It's a testament to the enduring influence of the past, one that defies the constraints of time and logic, leaving those who dare to enter these haunted halls with an unsettling sense of history's weight.
The Monroe Demon House in Hartford City, Indiana. It started like every other investigation. A team of ghost hunters entered an old house in Indiana called the Monroe House, a place whispered to be cursed, but within minutes, something in the basement made them bolt. Cameras were dropped, equipment left behind. No one wanted to go back inside. In that basement, there was a crawl space hidden behind a sealed door. Locals said the air inside was thick and metallic, and that strange growling sounds could be heard even from the street. Now, when investigators entered, they reported hearing whispers coming from the walls, and one of them claimed to see a shadowy figure crouched in the corner. Later, bones were allegedly found in that crawl space, small, broken, and human. No one ever confirmed where they came from. Now, during a later investigation, two well-known paranormal investigators spent 72 hours inside the house. They described seeing orbs moving on their own, feeling cold spots rush through their bodies, and watching doors slam with no one near them. One investigator admitted that the house made him physically ill. Locals say if you walk by at night, you can actually still see the upstairs window glowing faintly, even though the power was cut off years ago. The Poplar Hill Nanny House in Hillsborough, North Carolina. Now, it was supposed to be a peaceful new beginning. In 2014, journalist and musician Tom Maxwell and his wife, Brooke, found what seemed like their dream home, a beautiful, historic two-story in Hillsborough, North Carolina. Now, locals called it Nanny, but almost from the moment they unpacked their boxes, the house began to turn against them. Brooke was the first to notice the strange things happening. She said it started with the feeling that someone was standing behind her, watching her. Then one night, she woke up, paralyzed with fear, to see a tall, hooded figure leaning over her bed. Its arms were unnaturally long, its hands thin and bone-like. It just stared at her, and then all of a sudden, it was gone. Now, from that moment on, their dream home became a nightmare. Doors had been locked, they were found open in the morning. Footsteps would creak along the hallway upstairs when everyone was downstairs. The house had a heartbeat. It breathed at night. Tom tried to dismiss it. Old houses make noises, right? He told himself that over and over and over again, but soon, even he couldn't explain what they were actually seeing. One afternoon, a glass flew off the kitchen counter and shattered in front of them. Now, on another night, a door slammed so hard, it cracked the frame. In a room no one had entered all day. Then came the scratches. Brooke stepped into the shower one morning, only to cry out in pain as long red welts appeared across her back, right before Tom's eyes. It looked like something invisible had clawed her. And, they both basically just stood frozen in shock. Now, after that, they actually began to see them, the apparitions. Now, Tom called them the Spook Parade. A woman in a 19th century bonnet appeared at the top of the stairs. A gray mist shaped like a man hovered by their daughter's room. Sometimes they'd catch sight of shadowy figures gliding silently from one wall to another and disappearing through them. Now, desperate, they brought in local paranormal investigators, but the team didn't didn't last long. One man claimed that as soon as he entered the house, his equipment stopped working and his chest tightened as if someone was pressing against him. He described feeling a freezing breath against his neck, then hearing a voice whisper, "Leave now." Another investigator, a woman, ran out of the back room crying, saying something had brushed her hand in the dark. None of them ever came back. The Maxwells tried every form of protection they could think of: prayers, sage, salt lines across doorways. Tom even sprinkled salt along the baseboards and window frames, saying, "If the house wants to be evil, fine, but it's not taking us with it." But the activity only got worse. Cold air would pour out from beneath doors, and the smell of perfume, old and powdery, filled the hallways at night. The family's dog would bark furiously at corners of the room where nothing stood, and the longer they stayed, the sicker they became. Headaches, fatigue, constant dread. After 9 agonizing months, the Maxwells couldn't take it anymore. They packed up in the middle of the night and left the house behind. Tom later said, "We didn't move out, we escaped." Now, to this day, the house still stands. Locals swear that even now, if you drive by late at night, you might see a light flicker on in an upstairs window, even though no one lives there. The Ammons Demon House, this is in Gary, Indiana. Now, this isn't just another haunted house story. This is one that left police officers, priests, and social workers traumatized. The year was 2011. LaToya Ammons and her 3 children moved into a modest rental home on Carolina Street in Indiana. Now, it looked perfectly ordinary, but it would soon be called one of the most terrifying true demonic cases in modern history. It started with flies. Now, in the dead of winter, thick black flies swarmed around the porch, clustering on windows and doors. No matter how many they actually hurt, they kept coming back. Then came the sounds: footsteps on the basement stairs, heavy breathing in empty rooms, and doors slamming themselves shut. One night, LaToya's mother, Rosa Campbell, woke up to a dark shadow pacing in her bedroom. She said it felt like someone was standing over her, staring at her. It was pure evil. Now, what happened next pushed the story into legend. LaToya's children began to change. They'd talk to things that weren't there. They'd growl in deep voices that didn't sound human, and one day, in front of medical staff, one of her sons reportedly walked backwards up a wall, then flipped over and landed on his feet. Witnesses, including a hospital nurse and a DCS worker, confirmed what they saw. Priests were called in, exorcisms were performed. Police officers who investigated claimed they heard footsteps echoing in the basement when no one was actually inside. Now, one officer's recorder malfunctioned, then began playing distorted screams when replayed later. When renowned paranormal investigator Zach Bagans heard about the case, he bought the house outright to investigate it himself. But from the moment his team arrived, things went horribly wrong. Crew members fell sick, cameras, stopped for no reason. One investigator collapsed, claiming he felt something enter his body. He described a very heaviness in the room, like the air itself was pressing down. He said he saw shadowy figures darting across the hallways, and once, something unseen slammed the door with such force that the actual hinges bent. After documenting everything he could, Bagans made a shocking decision. He had the house demolished, completely torn down, claiming it was too dangerous to remain standing. Whatever's in there, he said, should never have a chance to escape. Even skeptics couldn't deny that something unexplainable happened there. Police reports, social worker testimonies, and church records all confirm strange occurrences. And locals say after the demolition, nothing will grow on that lot. No grass, no weeds, nothing. The land is still empty today. A quiet patch of dirt surrounded by chain link fence, and residents swear they still hear voices at night drifting through the air where the house once stood. The Smurl Haunting in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. For over a decade, the Smurl family lived in a nightmare that blurred the line between haunting and hell itself. From 1974 to 1989, Jack and Janet Smurl claimed their quiet family home was infested by something inhuman. It started with knocking sounds, flickering lights, and the stench of rotting flesh, but soon the attacks became physical. Their dog was thrown across a room, their beds would shake violently in the middle of the night. Janet said she was grabbed, scratched, and even attacked by something she couldn't see. Now, when famed demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated, they described the case as one of the darkest they'd ever faced. Now, during their time there, doors slammed so hard the hinges bent and mirrors cracked spontaneously. Some paranormal researchers who visited the home reportedly refused to spend the night. One priest called it something beyond demonic. Eventually, the Smurls moved, but the house remained, and neighbors still claim they hear screams echoing from inside when the wind actually slows down. Bellicanin House in Scotland. Now, long before ghost hunting TV shows existed, there was the Bellicanin House, a 19th century mansion so feared it was called the most haunted house in Scotland. Now, the story began with Major Robert Stewart, who lived there in the 1800s. He believed in reincarnation, and he was convinced he'd return as a dog after his passing. Now, to prevent that, he reportedly unalived his own dogs so no other spirit could use them as vessels, which is insane. Now, after his demise, locals said the dogs came back for revenge. Guests heard barking in empty halls, felt cold noses, kind of brush against their legs and saw shadowy shapes moving at night. Now, when Britain's Society for Physical Research investigated, basically in the 1890s, their investigators were overwhelmed. I mean, they documented apparitions of a ghostly nun, phantom footsteps, and sudden crushing cold that forced them out of rooms. One researcher quit mid-investigation, calling the energy inside unbearable. Another refused to ever discuss what she witnessed. By the 1930s, Bellicanin House was abandoned, and when it burned to the ground in the 1960s, locals said the fire glowed an unnatural green. So even in ruin, people still avoid walking across the land where it stood. These aren't your average haunted houses. These are places where reality seems to break, where investigators, priests, and skeptics all reach their limit. I mean, from basements full of bones to Indiana to ghostly nuns in Scotland, these stories remind us that sometimes there really is something in the dark that doesn't want to be found. So the next time you watch a paranormal investigation and think, I could handle that, just remember, these are the houses even the ghost hunters ran from.
In 5th place, we have Pendle Hill, also known as Penhull. Pendle Hill is located in the Lancashire countryside, near the villages of Burnley, Colne, Paddingham, Clitheroe, and Nelson. Pendle Hill is famous for George Fox's Visitation, the Quaker movement leader in 1652, and the barometer experiments of Richard Towneley in 1661. I feel like I'm missing something else they were famous for. Let's see if I can get the grey matter in here working. Oh, right. It's home to a very famous witch trial. Locals to the area know very well the story of the 10 women executed for witchcraft at Pendle Hill in the 17th century, who, still haunt the area. The story of the Pendle Witches is an excellent example of a well-documented allegation of witchcraft. So this tale begins way back in the year 1612, when there was said to be a family of local peasants who lived in a vast limestone tower. However, the family was no ordinary family. These peasants had enormous powers and were reported to be in league with the devil. According to reports, the family made clay effigies out of teeth and human hair. In a coincidence that's going to surprise absolutely no one, local people died of various mysterious illnesses or great pains at the time. The milk in the area turned sour, and cattle died mysteriously as well. People were kind of afraid to go up that hill. A local magistrate, Roger Norwell, made the decision to arrest 2 people living in the tower. They were brought to Lancaster for trial, and 2 days later, the rest of the witches were arrested and also taken to Lancaster for trial. Out of the 12 folks on trial, 1 passed during the proceedings, another one was found not guilty, and the other 10 were, very much found guilty. On August 20th of 1612, all 10 accused witches went to the way of the rope necklace at Gallows Hill. The history of the witch trials has given the place an eerie atmosphere and several terrifying reports. Pendle Hill was featured on the show Most Haunted, during which several supernatural events are said to have taken place, including members of the show's crew being injured. Most of the ghostly activity is said to be out of spite from the witches, who continue to call Pendle Hill their cursed home. One tale of haunting in particular took place during a Ouija board experiment. Is my disdain showing yet? The stupidity was happening in the foundations of Malkin Tower, when a tooth suddenly landed on the center of the table. Now this caused everyone present to be extremely concerned, and after having obviously checked to ensure that nobody in the group had lost a tooth, which was, definitely human, it left the folks involved in a quandary as to how it got there. The tooth was eventually identified as belonging to an adult of around 40 years of age, and was in fact an old tooth. And if a league of ticked-off witches wasn't enough ghosties for y'all, a Bronze Age burial site has been discovered at the hill's summit. Just a little bonus. In 4th place, we have Stirling, Scotland. This beautiful market town has played a pivotal role in the history of Scotland, along with playing host to multiple grisly stories and, unsettled spirits. The imposing hilltop, Stirling Castle, is home to several ghosts, and I'm struggling to decide who to talk about in detail. Probably one of the mysterious ladies. Oh, I know, the Green Lady. It is believed that she was a servant girl in the employ of Mary, Queen of Scots, and a very gifted one at that, who was blessed with the powers of foretelling, or second sight. So this maiden had a premonition that if her queen slept even one night within the ancient fortress, she would not live to see dawn. So she told her mistress of the fears, and thankfully, Mary listened and offered to allow the girl to watch over her as she slept, and, call for aid should any threat present itself. Through the long, dark night, our servant gal sat, bundled in a great soft chair guarding her beloved queen. Weary from a long journey, Mary fell into a deep slumber as soon as her head hit the pillow. And this girl too was kind of weary. She barred the door and, lighting a taper, sat by the bedside. There she sat for what seemed like an eternity, near hypnotized by the flickering of the taper's end. But, try as she might, she could not resist the weariness in her bones. Her limbs grew heavy, her eyelids heavier still, and decided, that maybe closing her eyes for a minute wouldn't hurt since she was so exhausted. Hey, we've all been there. But what seemed like no more than a few moments, she opened them again, blinking against the sudden brightness of the chamber. She, through bleary eyes, tried to call out, but found her throat throat so dry and realized that the tiny taper, set so carefully by the queen's cot, had fallen, lighting the bedclothes and tapestries on fire. Coughing, she darted from her chair, gathering the deeply sleeping queen in her arms, and carried her towards the door, barely managing to get her to safety before eventually passing from smoke inhalation. Sadly, her name has been forgotten. She is known only by the color of the gown she wore, the Green Lady. So visitors to Stirling should be mindful that their female phantoms have one thing in common. Yep, I said phantoms, plural. It is said that whosoever looks even once into their eyes won't make it through the night. So if you notice like a ruffled robe or a well-turned spectral heel as you're passing around, turn away, avert your gaze, because you don't want to risk your soul. Some say that Queen Mary herself haunts the castle, roaming the grounds in a pink dress. The Darnley Coffee House on Bow Street is also said to be haunted by a mischievous poltergeist, while the Old Town Jail is home to the spirit of the last man that went the way of the rope necklace on site. In third place, we have Edinburgh, Scotland. So the beautiful city of Edinburgh is well known for its ghostly activity. For starters, the South Bridge vaults are haunted by several different ghosts. During the Irish potato famine of 1845 to 47, thousands of Irish folks immigrated to Scotland seeking, survival. Forced into the vaults under the bridge, as many as 10 people lived in a single room. The conditions were poorer than the tenants, crowded and damp with barely any air circulation. And just like that, the area quickly became Edinburgh's red light district. Services of the night, please tell me you get what I'm referencing, gambling, and a thriving black market were commonplace in the vaults. By the late 19th century, the vaults were closed off for good in an effort to drive the seedy activity out from under Edinburgh's main thoroughfare. For decades, these vaults sat empty as their icky past slipped into obscurity. Obscurity that ended in 1998 when a local man crawled through a narrow passageway in one of his buildings and rediscovered the rooms underneath the bridge. Since then, the cavernous vaults of Southbridge have been open to the public, and the reports of ghosts have poured in. Honestly, what have I said about leaving hidden spaces that are blocked off be? Nothing good comes from opening them. Witnesses have claimed to feel cold gusts of air, hear voices, and to see and sense an intangible presence. Some ghosts are quite bold, like the spectral youngling Jack, who likes to grab visitors' hands in the wine vaults. Just for funsies. While another more menacing presence is known as Mr. Boots. He's an unkept man that was named for his, tall footwear. He lurks in the back section of the vault and has been known to push and throw rocks at visitors. Some have claimed to hear his footsteps on the cobbles and his echoing voice cursing throughout the chambers. It's even rumored that in the 1820s, the infamous serial killers William Burke and William Hare lurked within the vault, killing some of their 17 victims there, and storing the bodies in that same location until they were sold off for medical dissections. Visitors to Edenberg Castle also frequently report sightings of apparitions. A young piper who disappeared without a trace hundreds of years ago can still be heard today, with the faint, haunting sound of a lost soul. As well as the story of the vanished piper, the dungeons are frequented by a headless drummer boy and a gaggle of French prisoners captured during the 7-Year War, who are regularly sighted in and around the castle. If you hear the bark of a dog in Edinburgh's Old Town, yet there's nothing there, it could be Bobby, a phantom Skye Terrier that is known to all in the city. The faithful hound spent 14 years guarding his master's grave until he finally passed away in 1872 and was buried in Greyfriars Kirkyard, near his owner. People still hear his little bark near his grave. A small statue of Greyfriars Bobby is a popular landmark on the corner of Candlemaker Row, and it's good luck to rub Bobby's nose. Aw, here I am tempted to plan a trip, mainly to give a good ghost doggy a pet. Oh, almost forgot. Greyfriars is a graveyard that dates back to the 16th century and is the resting place of several infamous characters, but the most gruesome story is that of Bloody Mackenzie. Look, the interwebs really don't like when I say that word, so bear with me here. This wealthy lord was tasked with punishing hundreds of prisoners who refused to change their religion. Locals believe that the ghost of Mackenzie haunts the graveyard after his tomb was disturbed by a homeless man who broke into the graveyard at night. As soon as he laid hands on the tomb, the floor opened up beneath him and he dropped into a shallow grave containing plague victims. Since then, many other freaky episodes have taken place nearby. A woman was found unconscious with bruises around her neck, and many claim that it was Mackenzie's poltergeist, continuing his evil deeds in death as he did in life. No biggie. In second place, we have Canterbury, Kent. While this medieval city might be aesthetically stunning, it has quite the dark past. The ghosties here tend to be a little more spread out than other places, and have different tales. So let's have fun with some short and sweet descriptions. For starters, Canterbury Cathedral, a pilgrimage site for centuries, is the home to many restless spirits. Archbishop of Canterbury was famously and brutally killed by the King's Knights in 1170. Beckett's place of death has a large welded cross above it with 2 swords. His tomb can be found near the high altar, where his apparition still appears appears to visitors. Other cathedral ghosts include a nun and the ghost of Simon of Sudbury, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury from around 1375. Other paranormal hotspots in Canterbury include Tiny Tim's Tea Room, haunted by the spirits of 3 younglings whose remains were found within the walls during restoration. And hey, if you hang around Hawks Road, you might glimpse Abigail, a sad soul who frequents the area. Another spooky house in the area is the Bishop's Finger, which is located on St. Dunstan Street. In the 19th century, a housekeeper by the name of Ellen Blean discovered that her employer, a priest, was having an affair with a younger woman. It is said that Ellen poisoned the pair with a meat pie and then vanished from the city. Shortly afterwards, it was discovered that she had been buried alive as her body was found nearby. Ellen is said to wander the streets and manifest herself in the Bishop's Finger every Friday. She's described as, plain-faced, larger lady in a long white skirt and a mob cap. There are more haunted places in Canterbury, but sadly, I don't have all the time I would like to go into more detail. In first place, we have the village of Pluckley. Included in the Guinness Book of Records as the most haunted place in Britain, the Kentish village of Pluckley's popularity amongst ghosts and ghouls had to make it the #1 spot on our list today. Wandering monks, decapitated highwaymen, and all manner of central casting spirits reside here, but special attention should be paid to the particularly gruesome story of the Pluckley watercress lady. Seen smoking a clay pipe and living on the banks of the river about a century ago, the woman would sell watercress to the locals and drink gin from a flask. My kind of lady. Falling asleep one evening, it is believed that her pipe scattered ashes onto her rags and she burned to death. So nowadays, a pink glowing specter can allegedly be spotted at the exact location where she went up in flames. Now, before someone asks why this place is scarier than the others on today's list, other ghosties who frequent in the town include the specter of the highwaymen who hide in a tree at Pinnock, a phantom coach and horses who pop up in several areas around the village, the ghost of a Romani woman who drowned in a stream, a miller who has been seen at Mill Hill, the hanging body of a schoolmaster in Dicky Bus's Lane, a colonel who hanged himself in Park Wood, a man smothered by a wall of clay who drowned at the brickworks, the Lady of Rose Court, who is said to have poisoned herself in despair over a love triangle, the White Lady, a young woman who was apparently buried inside 7 coffins and an oak sarcophagus, who haunts St. Nicholas's Church, but not to be confused with the Red Lady, reputably a member of the family who haunts the churchyard of St. Nicholas's Church. Oh, and a small white dog has also been reported in the same location. Now, I don't know about y'all watching, but that's a few more ghosties than I'd like to see in a smaller town. And the fact that they like to roam and not stay in one spot? Hard pass.
Number 5, Gettysburg. For Americans, the Battle of Gettysburg is probably one of the more famous battles in your history. It was an incredibly bloody battle that marked a turning point in the war towards the Union, as it was a heavy victory over the Confederacy, halting the moving invasion towards the north. And that's about all the American history I remember from school. Unfortunately though, grand victories come at an impossible cost, and as such, countless lives were lost. Well, not entirely countless. Historians have estimated that the number hovers around 50,000 soldiers killed. With that in mind, with 50,000 lives cut short amidst a torrent of screams, bayonet jabs, musket fire, and cannons blasting off, is it any surprise that some of these tortured souls haven't quite been able to move on just yet? Gettysburg isn't just a place where history comes alive, it's a place where it hasn't quite fully died. The town of Gettysburg is filled with historical tours and ghost tours you can go on, with visitors and locals claiming that just about anywhere you go, you'll find something mysterious happening. Phantom shots, battle cries reverberating out hundreds of years later. One of the more haunted points of interest is the Devil's Den. I mean, obviously, listen to the name. A particularly bouldery stretch of land in Gettysburg that was host to a brutal battle where 5,000 soldiers died alone. Visitors claim that they can see the apparitions of the soldiers still at war. One particularly freaky Gettysburg story that they probably leave out of the history books is the story of Jenny Wade. Jenny Wade was a civilian killed during the Battle of Gettysburg when a stray bullet struck her while she was baking bread. The house where she lived, now known as the Jenny Wade House, is believed to be haunted by her spirit. Visitors and staff have reported hearing footsteps, doors opening and closing on their own, and the aroma of freshly baked bread, all attributed to Jenny's presence. Well, at least there's someone still making food for all those ghostly soldiers. If anyone's ever been down to Gettysburg, let me know if you've ever had a weird experience there. I would love to hear it. And if you're looking for more weird experiences of ghosts and all things supernatural, well, you don't have to book a plane ticket anywhere because you're in exactly the right place already. Make sure you hit subscribe so you can get all the latest on our scary stuff, and ring that little bell as well and you'll get up-to-date notifications when we upload. But Do that at the end of this video, okay? Because I got 4 more scary battlefields coming for you right now. Number 4, Waterloo. The Battle of Waterloo, that's the one in Belgium, not the Kitchener-Waterloo area, was fought in 1815 and was a significant historical event for a few reasons. First and foremost, I think we can all agree the most important thing that came out of the Battle of Waterloo was that it inspired one of ABBA's most time-tested bangers. Secondly, and less important, it was a conflict that ended up ending Napoleon's impressive rule, ending the Napoleonic Wars. Just like the Battle of Gettysburg, this was a brutal battle that claimed the lives of thousands of soldiers on both sides. If you're learning anything from this video, it's that war is not great for the soldiers. One of the most famous ghostly legends associated with the Waterloo battlefields revolves around a spectral little drummer boy. According to the story, visitors and locals have reported hearing the faint sound of a drum being played in the distance, and it's said that this haunting sound resembles a military drummer echoing through the night. Some people claim that they see an apparition dressed in this uniform believed to be the ghost of a young drummer boy who lost his life during the battle. Another ghostly encounter is the soldiers' apparitions. Visitors claim that sometimes you can see shadowy figures dressed in period uniforms, marching across the fields or standing silently as if reliving battles. They're described as fleeting and ethereal, vanishing as soon as they are noticed. Well, maybe ghosts get shy too when they're not ready. As well, visitors to Waterloo battlefields claim that they have felt a profound sense of sadness and unease while walking through the fields and exploring the landmarks. Definitely, I feel like any place like this where you just know how many lives have been lost all in one little stretch of land, that would kind of make me feel some sort of way. Waterloo. Couldn't escape if I wanted to. How right ABBA was. Number 3, the Bannockburn Battlefield. Our next entry on the list today is in Scotland, near the village of Stirling, and it's the Bannockburn Battlefield, a site of great historical significance for Scotland due to the Battle of, well, wouldn't you guess it, Bannockburn. The forces of King Robert of Scotland and King Edward II of England clashed, leading to a huge loss for the English, as 11,000 of their knights were cut down in battle. Now, this battlefield may not be as outright haunted as some of the other locations I've talked about so far, but the locals still say to keep your eyes peeled for spirits. Kind of like the drummer boy, there's a legend of a ghostly piper who is said to haunt this battlefield, and that he appears at dusk, playing his pipes and leading an invisible army across the field. Some witnesses claim that they can hear a faint bagpipe sound or even see a spectral figure dressed in traditional Scottish attire. He's forever marching with his troops, and let me just say, I don't think I could imagine anything half as haunting as a ghostly bagpipe that's playing forever. Imagine being forced to play the bagpipes for all of eternity. That's worse than any hell could conjure. Visitors to Bannockburn Battlefield also report seeing ghostly figures dressed in armor. They are described as being transparent or glowing and are believed to, well, be the spirits of knights who fell in battle. Witnesses have described seeing these apparitions while walking near monuments and memorials dedicated to battle, and claim they can even hear the echoes of it, clanging of steel, and let's be real, probably still playing those bagpipes louder than anything you can hear. I can't imagine how annoying a ghost bagpipe player is, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get over that. Number 2, the Borodino Battlefield. The Battle of Borodino was fought on September 7, 1812 during Napoleon's failed invasion of Russia and was one of the grisliest conflicts of the war. Are we surprised that 2 different battlefields from the Napoleonic Wars are considered haunted? I'm not particularly, because that guy invaded a lot of places, and I'm willing to bet that emotions were probably pretty high around him, and I would say the vibe was just probably off. So I'm not surprised that enough emotionally tormented souls have spawned so many ghosts. The village of Borodino is about 70 miles west of Moscow and has a reputation for ghostly legends and reported hauntings. Why don't you pop your ears open and take a listen to some of the stranger things that have come out of the Borodino battlefield. According to local legends, on the right nights, particularly the anniversary of the battle, witnesses claim to hear the sounds of galloping horses and the clash of sabers as the cavalry rushes in. Some people take it a little step further and say they've even seen apparitions of the cavalry charging, as if they're reenacting the battle. You guys can't get over the war. You fought it once already. You don't have to fight it for eternity. You don't have to keep fighting it. It's over. It's done. It happened. There are people too who claim that they've encountered a spectral figure dressed in a white medical coat, believed to be the ghost of a surgeon who worked on the wounded during the battle. Witnesses describe seeing the apparition wandering through the battlefield, appearing and disappearing amidst the ruins and remnants of war. Would absolutely hate to be a ghost surgeon. You're going to try and and repair other ghosts. I don't know if you can do surgery on a ghost. I think that might be for life. I think if you get injured and then turn into a ghost, you're just gonna have to deal with like a big hole in your tummy forever. But I don't know, I'm not a ghost, I wouldn't know. Unlike some of the other entries that I've talked about on this list, there isn't like a huge culture for ghost tours in Borodino, so if you do end up going up near there, you're gonna be on your own looking for the ghosts. But maybe they're just not as spiritual there, or maybe they don't want to talk about it. Maybe they don't want to invite people to come see it. And number 1, Normandy. The battle at Normandy is probably one of the most well-known battles in the history of human armed conflict. You've probably seen it play out in countless movies. You've probably played the invasion in 1,000 video games. June 6th, 1944 was D-Day. The horrifying, legendary military operation resulting in an estimate of 20,000 casualties. It was one of the most painful battles of the Second World War, so it is no surprise at all how haunted Normandy is said to be. Now, Omaha Beach is one of the more infamous landing sites during the D-Day invasion. It's said that the spirits of fallen soldiers still linger around in the area. Visitors have reported hearing all the usual haunting sounds, disembodied voices, cries for help, artillery, screams, and again, particularly bold claims say that you can see ghastly apparitions of soldiers on both sides of the conflict still dressed in full uniform. The town of Falaise was the strategic location during the Battle of Normandy, and there have been wild reports of people saying that they see a phantom tank roaming around the streets, claiming that you hear the rumble of tank tracks and witness the apparition of a tank disappearing into thin air. Some believe it represents the spirit of a tank crew lost in the battle. This is a new one for me. I don't know if I've ever heard of a machine ghost. I've heard of people ghosts, definitely, but I've never heard of a tank ghost, and it does make me wonder if can all vehicles be ghosts? Are there car ghosts? Are there plane ghosts? I'm not sure, but I'd love to know. Now, these are just a few examples of the many, many ghostly stories and hauntings associated with Normandy. The region's intense conflict and sacrifice has left a sort of permanent mark on the area. You know, it's kind of hard to separate Normandy from that big thing that happened there. So many visitors do report feeling kind of eerie and unexplained when visiting these historic sites. I think you walk around an area like that, you're just thinking about a lot of death. It's definitely on your mind.
Number 5, McKamey Manor. Alrighty, before someone yells at me, yes, this place does market themselves as a haunted house, or to quote the founder Russ, a survival horror performance house. But since they're currently offering 20 grand to anyone who can survive 10 hours of their games, I'm considering them eligible for today's list. Granted, if you curse or fail a challenge, $500 gets removed each time. And I've also had a personal vendetta against them for about 10 years now, and that's about to come into play. So founder Russ McKamey, a former Navy seaman turned haunted attraction enthusiast, doesn't accept any kind of money for this unique experience. Payment is simply, a can or a bag of dog food. There is a screening process first. Participants must produce a doctor's note, sign a 40-page waiver, pass a background check and test, and be screened via FaceTime. A guide has testified that the 40-page waiver signed by participants lists possible risks, which include having teeth extracted, being tattooed, and having fingernails removed. If I didn't already hate the place enough, that does it for me. That's just unnecessary torment. It originally operated in San Diego, but neighbors petitioned to have it run out of the area due to the noise and unsafe attention it brought them, and were successful. There's a total of 3 locations now: Nashville, Tennessee, and Huntsville, Alabama. At the Tennessee location, guests must be 21 or older, or 18 to 20 with parental consent, while the Alabama location only allows ages 21 or up. The tour lasts from 8 to 10 hours, but no guest has made it all the way through. McKamey originally did not allow safe words for the tour, but has since reportedly allowed them, with guests having the option to use a safe word that ends the experience immediately. The house operates year-round, and there is allegedly a waiting list of over 24,000 people. I just want to know why. During the experience, employees of the manor may physically attack patrons, waterboard them, force them to eat and drink unknown substances, have them bound and gagged, and engage in other forms of physical and psychological anguish. I'm forgetting something. Don't remind me. Oh yeah, participants may also be during their experience. And hey, if that wasn't enough ick for anyone, make sure to smile for the camera while you're enduring this hell. Yeah, McKamey started filming everything that happened inside as an insurance policy, so he'd have proof of what really happened anytime law enforcement came knocking. Nowadays, each contestant's experience is live streamed to a Facebook audience of close to 30,000 people. If that's your idea of entertainment, there's a large archive of footage on the official website. So far, no one's been able to escape, and I'm pretty sure everyone leaves with some sort of imprint on their psyche, so big pass from me. Number Number 4, Eloise Asylum. Eloise Psychiatric Hospital was a large complex located in Westland, Michigan that operated from 1839 to early 1982. It started out as a poorhouse and farm. It eventually developed into an asylum, sanatorium, and hospital. It's had a lot of names over the years, so bear with me here. In 1832, it was called the Wayne County Poorhouse. In 1872, it was the Wayne County Almshouse, while in 1886, it was referred to simply as the Wayne County House. In 1913, there were 3 divisions: the Eloise Hospital, which housed the mental hospital, the Eloise Infirmary or the poorhouse, and the Eloise Sanatorium, which housed patients with tuberculosis, and all 3 were collectively called Eloise. Oh, and that's not the end of the name changes. In 1945, it was named Wayne County General Hospital and Infirmary at Eloise, Michigan. By 1974, it had 2 divisions, separating the Wayne County Psychiatric Hospital from the General Hospital. In 1979, it was officially called Wayne County General Hospital, with the psychiatric division closing in 1982. In its heyday, Eloise was made up of 78 buildings on 902 acres with 10,000 patients along with 2,000 staff, serving as the largest psychiatric facility in the entire United States. Only the firehouse, power plant, commissary, and D buildings still stand as of July of 2023, as well as the cemetery. It had some good things back in the day, housing the first kidney dialysis unit in the state of Michigan and pioneering the use of music therapy. Staff also used hydrotherapy, shock therapy, and insulin therapy to treat patients. As years went on, the institution grew larger and larger, a reflection in the increases in the population of the Detroit area. From only 35 residents in 1839, the complex grew to, like I said, about 10,000 folks at its peak during the Great Depression. Now to talk about ghosties. My favorite part. Numerous typical poltergeist activities have been witnessed within the complex, with doors slamming and medical carts and tables being overturned. Generally speaking, there are shadow figures that seemingly drip from the ceilings and ooze from the walls of this place, becoming part of the building itself until they're one and the same. 2 ghostly little ones have been seen running through the paint-peeling walls of the hallways, turning a corner only to disappear. It's assumed they were inmates at the time Eloise was a poorhouse, where orphans often lived until they were adopted out or passed away. So these 2 possibly died in their youth, or maybe they relive their lives now without the fear they had when they were alive, carelessly playing games in a kind of purgatory. There's a mysterious lady that appears as a white vapor and has been seen manifesting within one of the buildings that still stand, and her voice has been recorded as she whispers, "Help me." Another ghost is that of a doctor, said to prowl the halls of the crumbling facility. Even in the afterlife, he searches for an unfortunate patient to practice his scientific methods. Some have reported seeing a specter drenched in water, possibly a reminder of when hydrotherapy was coming into practice. Other times the ghostie is seen wearing a smock stained in red, presumed to be from a lobotomy. Possibly he lingers here, tormented by the ghosts of the patients upon whom he practiced. Nowadays, this building is home to 2 different escape rooms, one titled The Heist and the other is aptly called Escape the Asylum. If you feel like risking the wrath of the ghosts, that's on you. Number 3, 13 Seta Avenue. This is the only Canadian entry on today's list, and apparently it's the scariest escape room in the entire Greater Toronto area. Time to tell if my courage will kick in and motivate me to go check it out. So rumor has it, everyone who's experienced this particular escape room has experienced some sort of paranormal activity, which could be my cup of tea as long as it doesn't involve a Ouija board or spirits that follow me home. So according to the website, it is described as a group daring to venture through an abandoned house turns into a horrifying nightmare when you quickly realize it's not abandoned at all. So it's just a sick game, and you are the main attraction. You'll have to work together and overcome all the challenges. Watch out, not all groups make it out together. Now here's the haunted element. Some parts of the internet have listed it as running, while the official website changes depending on the day, on if it's still existing or not. Try and register if you dare. Who knows if you'll live to tell the tale. Number 2, Franklin County Historic Jail. Allegedly, the old Franklin County Jail is one of the most haunted locations in south central Pennsylvania and once housed quite the notorious prisoner. 1920s gangster Charlie Berger was held at the Franklin County Jail from June of 1927 to April of 1928, where he went the way of the rope necklace for the death of Joe Adams along with a plethora of other crimes. While he isn't the only ghostie that likes to hang out at the jail, apparently he can be spotted skulking around where he met the end of his time. Overall activity that has been reported includes shadows, mysterious noises, disembodied moans, being physically touched, and feelings of tension in certain areas. Time for a history lesson though. In the early 1700s, the land that would become Franklin County was settled and traveled by Native Americans, including the Iroquois, the Lenape, and the Shawnee. Treaties resulted in the land being settled by the English after the French and Indian War. In 1818, the Franklin County Jail was constructed to house criminals and those condemned to the gallows. The basement was used as a dungeon, where the condemned were often shackled, physically punished, or killed prior to their date with the noose in the courtyard. In 1862, as the nearby shops were all burned, the Franklin Jail remained untouched. The jail escaped damage again when Confederate General Robert E. Lee and 70,000 soldiers took up residence nearby, and once again in 1864, as a significant portion of Chambersburg was burned, the jail remained unscathed. If I had a nickel for everything I just thought was mighty suspicious, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. At least 7 known souls met their end at the gallows, and many more were subjected to inhumane treatment in the basement. Areas known to be haunted in the old prison include the old doctor's office, where spirits are known to recount their tales of poor treatment, the old cells where orbs have a habit of appearing in photos near certain names and dates etched into the walls, but the worst is the tension and cold felt in the basement where so many endured horrors and met their end. Nowadays, folks can get a feel of the life, behind its real prison bars thanks to the escape room on site. Prisoners are locked in the lower jail block cell and have to use puzzle-solving tactics in order to break out. And like most game rooms, they have 60 minutes to escape. Good luck! Number 1. Shepton Mallet Prison. So this prison is widely recognized as the most haunted prison in the world, and one of the most haunted locations in the UK. It was built in 1610 and became known as the oldest prison in the United Kingdom. Behind its walls, prisoners would frequently die of illnesses because medical treatment was sadly overlooked. Death sentences were frequently carried out, with the latest happening in 1945 under the direct order of the military. So it didn't actually close until 2013, so I think it's the most recently converted location on our list today. In the 1970s, the Home Office was requested to investigate some strange happenings in one of the wings. An increase in prisoners requesting additional bedding due to cold draught was becoming an issue, and the occasional smell of sweet perfume would waft around the prison. Prisoners were becoming uncomfortable in their cells, and officers started to refuse working the night shifts. So the office carried out a 3-day investigation, and the results remained inconclusive. As the years passed, new reports were coming in that the draughts would continue, as would the smell of sweet perfume. Some night officers would report seeing shadows and white figures standing on the stairs. The story of the White Lady was revealed after some research. So she had killed her husband and was brought to the prison for her final days before meeting her end in the town center. The night before her execution, she was offered her final request and asked to wear her wedding dress. The morning of her execution, the door to her cell swung open, and to the surprise of the officers, her lifeless body laid on the bed, dressed in the gown. No marks were found, and it was concluded that she must have died of a broken heart. She is said to still wander the wings and has been reported to be seen on multiple occasions. And if she isn't seen, the smell of a sweet perfume has been reported to linger in the prison wing. So the prison now advertises the escape room as a team building behind bars, where visitors learn the full details of the corrupt events that happened within the prison walls and then try their hand at escaping themselves. Yeah, no thanks. Old City Hall. Built in the late 1890s and once the head seat of the municipality of Toronto and County of York, this building now serves the city as its municipal courts. The city's departments were moved to the modern buildings just west of this ornate building with, rather unique architecture. What's in this old building that interests us? Oh, easy. Stories reverberate of all types of different ghostly activity. The rear staircase has a poltergeist that seems to enjoy tugging at judges' robes, as well as walking up and down the stairs where its footsteps can still be heard. The haunting was first reported by Judge S. Tupper Bigelow, who said he would hear footsteps behind him and feel something pulling at his judicial robe. Now, the same experience happened to Judge Pete Wilch. The cellars acted at one time as a holding center for prisoners, and the moans of the incarcerated have been heard as well. The northwest attic is also a spot where a presence is felt, but nobody's quite sure what it is. Courtroom 33 boasts scary encounters of the spirits of what could be the last men sentenced to hang in Canada. The last 2 men to receive the death penalty were Ronald Turpin and Arthur Lucas. Both men were hung by the, neck, and there is actually doubt about their true guilt. Salvation Army chaplain Cyril Everett tried to save both of their lives but was sadly unsuccessful. Serving the spiritual needs of the condemned, he offered both of them last rites and absolution. Upon coming home from the Don jail, his son noticed his red-stained clothing. Now this was due to a miscalculation of the drop, with Arthur's head disconnecting. Yes, minus some connective tissue. So it's said that their ghosts still haunt the property to this day. Now that room is in demand every Halloween by ghost hunters, many of whom haven't been able to stay the full night because of the weird noises and cool fogs that left them glued to the floor. So if you feel like ghost hunting, have at it. Number 4, Casa Loma. If a place has secret tunnels, then chances are there's gonna be a few ghosties roaming around, including a stern-looking old man gazing out from a window, who by the way is probably Sir Henry Pellet, the castle's original owner, a British redcoat in the stable, and a lady in white walking the halls and somebody knocking in the tunnel. Sounds like a party. You know me, I love a good lady in white. So the White Lady is believed to be a maid who worked there in the early 1900s, around the time when about 60,000 people in Toronto died of influenza. She's been seen in a lot of places by guests or by cleaning and cafeteria staff as they've been cleaning up at the end of the day. Poltergeists have been reported numerous times in upper levels as well as the basement. The castle even offers ghost tours, led by Canada's Most Haunted. According to Michelle Desrochers, CMH director and Castaloma's de facto paranormal rep, they've had stories going on in there since the 1930s when the Kiwanis Club took over the castle. There have been plenty of Casa Loma ghost stories that pop up from time to time, such as, the appearance of a man tending to the garden in the indoor conservatory, or the sound of young people's voices when no young folks are around. Now, a few stories, however, are reported time and time again by different people. A woman believed to be Lady Mary has also been spotted on the grounds, although the rep has pointed out the notoriously private woman has proven elusive. At one point, the Canada's Most Haunted team attempted to film her room, leaving a camera running there while they explored other parts of the castle. When they returned to check the footage, though, the tape was gone. According to mediums who have claimed to have felt the presence of Sir Henry and Lady Mary, their spirits aren't trapped there, they just choose to be there after, sadly they were ousted from Casa Loma after being unable to keep up with its costs. And obviously that place is very expensive to keep up. The tunnel leading to the castle stables are where another of its most notorious ghosts is believed to roam. Many have reported feeling as though they had been grabbed or had their hair pulled while in the tunnel. People have also reported hearing the spirit in the tunnel sighing gruffly. And he's even been captured in recordings, speaking and interacting with visitors. In one recording, he's been heard mimicking a medium who said, "Oh, he's a horrible person," while trying to make contact. Now once again we consult the paranormal rep, and she says the evidence points to the voice belonging to the ghost of a friend of Sir Henry's, who was hired to look after, his prize-winning horses. Okay, maybe it's time to check in with my friends who have worked some events at Casa Loma to see if they've met any of the ghosties. Note to self. Number 3, Mystery on the Mind Reader's Home. Well, this might not be an entry on most popular lists. I'm speaking from experience when it comes to this location. So for those who might be unaware, Mysterion is a world-renowned mind reader and has been featured on shows such as America's Got Talent, Canada's Got Talent, and he's helped fool Penn and Teller, amongst many other accolades. Don't ask me how he does what he does. I genuinely don't know and I can't tell you. But what I do know, and I know this without a doubt, is that he happens to collect a whole slew of oddities and artifacts in his home/museum. So let's start with the team stuff, his toy collection. Personally, the most interesting things in my opinion are the rare gem dolls on display, the Shirley Temple doll that's still in the box, and the whole wall of wrestling figures. Now when I was first getting into wrestling, it was fun looking at the wall and testing my knowledge, and you know what, it still is. He also has a full Pee-wee Playhouse setup, a Star Wars section, a Superman section, and plenty more that I'm sure he'll show off to me next time I visit. But I can't remember off the top of my head. But that's not the priority here. The oddities collection is. So while I tend to hold my breath whenever I visit the toy room, out of fear of accidentally making a tiny figure move, because I don't know how he gets them all in there, I'm a lot more fearful of the oddities collection. There's everything in that room. Shrunken heads, Atacama mummies, little mermaids, finger necklaces, necklaces of things I can't say on here, plenty of teeth, Victorian hair art. Hell, he used to have the Manson letters displayed on his wall. There's more taxidermy in that room than in most mainstream museums. Yeah, he has a special interest in albino taxidermy, don't ask. And proudly on display in the living room, in all their glory, are the cursed dolls that call this house a home, Leanne and Walt. Now if you're new to watching, I've actually brought Walt to the studio for a visit before, so I highly recommend watching the video I did on cursed dolls you've never heard of before. Walt is a porcelain baby doll that likes setting fires, and Leanne has a way with telekinesis. So as you can imagine, the place tends to come with its fair share of demonic activity. I've heard tales of jewelry boxes flying off of dressers, clothing items going missing, to make me never want to be in that home alone, or spend the night there. Number 2, the Cake Mansion. Once owned by the powerful Massey family, the Cake Mansion rates pretty high on the radar of Halloween thrill seekers and ghost enthusiasts. Hello. So apparently once upon a time, a maid working for the Masseys was found dead above the main staircase, and it said some nights you can see her hanging from a rope above the front entrance. Apparently the maid took her life because of grief over Lillian's death, or she might have been knocked up by one of the Massey's sons and couldn't bear the shame. I'm going with the latter. Other sightings include weird happenings in the woman's washroom, a young boy playing on the staircase, and other young folks frolicking upstairs and in the kitchen. Now during the time the Massey family owned the mansion, Lillian Massey did pass away in the second floor bedroom of the house. Now her ghost is said to be roaming the woman's washroom on the same floor. Now I walked by the mansion a number of times when I used to live nearby. Heck, I've even had dinner there once. But I managed to avoid anything following me home, which thank goodness, I have enough demonic energy in my life as it is. I own a couple of demon dolls. It is what it is. Number 1, Exhibition Place. It should come as no surprise that one of Toronto's oldest collections of buildings at Exhibition Place has a few spine-tingling tales to tell. Jacqueline Edwards, senior archivist at Exhibition Place, compiled a list of the site's spookiest stories. So the General Services building at 2 Manitoba Drive is likely the most haunted building on the grounds. Staff members have heard whistling and footsteps in the hallways, crashing noises with no evidence that anything fell, and the sounds of a cocktail party taking place behind closed doors, like complete with music, drinking glasses, and then there's nobody there. Now perhaps the ghostly noises can be linked to not one, but 2 horrible deaths at the building. Built in the early 1900s, the General Services building was originally a hydroelectric power station, but now houses the Exhibition Place Operations Division, security, and, yeah, the archives. In April of 1912, it was the site of a chilling killing. I like a good rhyme. crime. Junk dealer Joseph Rosenthal was found dead in the hydroelectric yard. The only witness to the crime was also attacked and barely survived, but managed to crawl up Strawn Avenue to find help. A hydro employee named Charles Gibson was found responsible, and the death appeared to be over a scrap metal deal that went sour. A few years later, in 1924, another man died in the basement of the building. Michael Sullivan died on Thursday, October 9th, electrocuted while trying to restore power to the city after a devastating fire. Over in the Stanley Barracks, staff members have heard knocking on doors, and then there's nobody there. Sensors often go off in the building for no reason, doors become suddenly unlocked, and items have been moved out of place. After a 13-month investigation of the X, Richard Palmisano, a paranormal activity investigator, found the barracks had the most ghostly activity, including his favorite spirit, a young girl named Jenny. Now, Jenny is apparently looking for her cat. She died in an accident, her scarf got tangled, and well, you make of that what you will, but she's there, and her father's looking after her. Sadly, the barracks also has some negative energy. There's two individuals that gravitate to the basement. Nasty people. One's named Bob, and his buddy Dave or David, and they actually terrorize the other spirits. For historical context, the barracks was built in 1841, and originally consisted of 6 buildings, but only one remains today, the officers' quarters, which is now a part of the Hotel X, complex. Moving on, built in 1931, the Horse Palace is largely empty throughout the year, only occupied by the Toronto Police Mounted Unit and a riding academy year-round. The riding academy staff have heard phantom horses walking above their heads on the 2nd floor, and several cleaning and security staff have seen a ghostly officer riding his horse, who, tends to vanish when they take a second look. During the Second World War, the exhibition grounds was actually a military camp from 1940 to 46. The Horse Palace was used as a barracks for soldiers waiting for training and then to head over, overseas. And for many folks, this was their last memory of Toronto. So around more than 12,000 men went through the Horse Palace, and quite a few never came back. So many security officers have also mentioned that the horticulture building seems to be the worst in terms of things that go bump in the night. The ghostly activity may have something to do with the building's gruesome past. On September 18th of 1949, this building became a temporary morgue for the burned victims of the SS Neronic. The ship was docked in Toronto when it burned, killing 118 passengers. The victims were laid out on tables throughout the building. Doctors and nurses worked, with police investigators to identify the bodies so the next of kin could claim them, but so many were badly burned and could only be identified by dental records and fingerprints. And one spooky story, a security officer on duty once responded to an alarm in the middle of the night in the basement and found a water valve had been twisted open, allowing water to freely pour into the room. But this valve could only be opened with fire department equipment, so the firefighters, turned off the valve and they were like, what the heck? Now, when left alone again, the officer heard the sound of someone trying to open the door. The force being used, kind of unnerved the officer, so running towards the noise, he kicked the crash bar, forcing the door to open to find nobody on the other side. Shaken and pale, he returned to the security office, only to learn his adventure occurred on the anniversary of the ship's disaster.